Oh, here he comes. Still hasn't changed his name from last week.
Oh,
hi everybody! Hello everyone.
And it's a half a mark.
We are live. Mark literally turned up just as I pushed the live button. How you doing, mate?
Hi everyone.
Yeah, look, our guest is right next to you. Just to your side there. There's Tom Mandrake there. He's not actually here yet. He's just in the backdrop. It just so happens that he looks like he's here because he's in that part of the backdrop. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be talking to Tom Mandrake in about an hour's time. That's cool. What are we going to talk about until he comes on?
And like I said, when we were backstage, it's pretty neat that, he's not on right now because he's teaching a class at the Kubert School.
That's right, where he actually went to learn. That's one of the questions I'm going to ask him, actually. I'm going to ask him about how he come to be there. Remember the old comic book adverts? Used to be, if you could draw this, you could do art. And like I'm sure there was like Joe Kubert's like adverts in the old comic books as well. I wonder if we ever saw them when he was a kid and thought that's for me, or it's possible that's how he got the idea to go there in the first place. So you don't know. I want to ask him about his history, about his, did he read comics as a kid kind of thing. Also, was his favourite character Mandrake the Magician?
Yeah. You would think, because one of my favorite characters is Kyle Richmond Nighthawk.
Yeah.
Like namesake. It's just, you got to gravitate to namesake.
That surname is just so suited to his style. And he does a lot of horror.
Supernatural drawing.
Mandrake. It's almost like, is it a pen name or is it his real name? Like, you have to wonder.
He changed his name to Grim Spectre Mark this week. There we go. Hello, one busy
man. Oh, Grim Spectre Mark. So for Grimjack and for
you've got it. Spectre. I knew Gray would get it.
You know what? I didn't even know.
And Mark Spectre, a little Moon Knight thrown in there.
I had a bunch of Grimjacks that I got in. I got in like a bulk buy that I did, and I've been trying to sell them. I didn't know that he did the art on them, so I'm not never going to get a full run of them. I have got a full run of his.
He made just a strange career choice at one stage to move from doing Batman to going and doing Grimjack.
Yeah, I wonder what caused. You could ask him about that. What brought that on? Yeah. Let me show you my creeps. Let me show you. Right, because I really like Tom Mandrake's art from Martial Manhunt and the Spectre run. Yeah. Really enjoyed that, and I found out he had his own comic that he was doing on Image called Creeps. And I went on his website when it used to be a bit more active than it is now. I'm not sure if he's updated it since the last time I bought something off there about 10 years ago. I'm not too sure. Don't stick to it. Oh gosh, I nearly stuck something down on his paper. Right, so he sent me the whole run of Creeps. I bought it off his website and he signed them all. Oh, and at that point, these were the only signed books that I had. And look at these art. I think he's when he's doing horror stuff, it's got to be amongst the best. It's up there with Blinking Rights.
That's really good. I haven't seen that at all. Is that an independent?
Yeah, it's on Image. It's Image title called Creeps. It's just a 4-part. Mishkin, I'm not sure who Mishkin is. I don't know if I've heard that name before, but just some really horrible, freaky looking people. Creeple people, that's what they're called. They're called creeple people. They are now, anyway. There's a mixture of people. It's a portmanteau of people and creeps. They're called creeples. Look at that. It's a guy made out of bugs. If that's not nightmare inducing, I don't know what is.
Yeah, it's really good. I'm going to seek those out. I'm going to have a quick look on the bay at the moment now to see if I can find those.
I'm sure they're
the gatherings of the bug bladder beast of.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can call Image an independent anymore.
No. But I think it was I think it was his own title, or I think it was a creator-owned one. I think most Images though, isn't it? Creator-owned, I think.
Yeah.
Basically. This one, I think. I don't know if this is what came first, him knowing about Kyle or him drawing this, and then I don't know, maybe he knew Kyle before and like he just used him as a template or influence for this one. I'm not too sure.
It's like the photo Kyle put up the other day.
Exactly, yeah, he looks just like him. Just this Kyle, just hello. Have I showed you my comic books yet?
Have you seen my John Thomas? That's what it looks like he's saying there, not comic books.
Yeah, it's on the back as well. Same guys on the back. Just going out for a cigarette.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that here shortly.
The ugly people on the dirty streets, the whack.
Was that Creeps? Was it just 2 issues? Oh no, 3 issues. Yeah.
I thought it was a 4-issue run. Where'd he go? I thought he was getting to issue 4, but
yeah, you're right. It's 4, Kyle.
I think he's just sitting there spinning now. I thought I might have gone out of whack, but I was laughing because I'm looking for my Mandrake books earlier because I'm dragging around. And what do I find? I find a big old stack of Jan Duursema books that I meant to have out last week. You know, the Moon Shadows, the Spectre he did, which I thought I was going to come across this when I was looking for Tom Spectre, which is probably somewhere buried back there. Oh, look. Hey, I've gone big. All right. So when Gray pops back in, yeah, this should have been shown last week. My one punch question of JM there. The Justice League relaunch. The DC Moon Shadow. I've got the Epic Moon Shadow too.
Yeah, that's a set. I've got the full set of that. I've got a few of the Marvel ones.
Then the Spectre. Done by DeMatteis and Ryan Sook. And then one of my favorite Martian Manhunters, done by DeMatteis and Mark Badger. Had a classic one there, but I didn't bring much else to show. Got a few things kind of handy, but I was going to be kind of a spectator today because this is going to be a DC-centric talk, and I don't have much DC. I only have like 4 or 5 short boxes of DC compared to everything else.
Yeah, no, I've got. I was always a Batman and fan, so I've got more DC probably than I've got. It's probably about 50-50. I've probably got 50-50 Marvel DC.
Yeah. I've got like 60% Marvel. 20%. No, 60% Marvel, 10% DC, and 30% independent. There he is.
Well, that sucked.
Where did you go?
Disappearing. I'm going to start a Kickstarter and get myself a new laptop or something. A GoFundMe page. It's like the battery just dies without warning. It's like, normally a laptop will say, "Oh, your battery is low."
Yeah.
You like at least half a minute to pick up the big lead and plug it in.
Yeah.
Not my computer. My computer sometimes it does that. And you get the lead in time, and it shuts down anyway. I'm not sure how long my voice carried on. My screen went blank. Did you hear me say bollocks and
Yeah. We
got that bit. Oh, good.
Yeah,
That's good. I'm glad that was kept in. I'm glad it kept that bit in.
Well, I think you were on issue 3 at Creeps.
Yeah.
Or maybe going.
How was you amusing yourself in my absence? I hope you.
Well, I went and ordered Creeps.
Oh, good. How much was it going? Not going for
I've got
much,
issues 1, 2, and 4 for $6.99 free post.
That's good. So you just need number 3 then.
Yeah.
Right. There's the last one. Number 4.
Not signed though. Yeah, nice.
Mine are signed. He didn't charge me anything for the signatures either. He didn't charge me a bean. Like he just whatever it was on the website.
Yeah.
It must have come from America as well. I don't remember the postage being exorbitant in them days. But it says a long time ago. I liked his stuff, and I saw these. I thought these are awesome.
Definitely a long time ago, because nowadays postage is exactly that, purely.
Well, I'm not sure. Well, it must be whatever time these came out. So it may well be in late 90s even. I'm not even sure. Let's have a quick look. I've got one in my hand. They tend to have dates inside them. Now I think about it, let's just have a look, shall we? Rather than guessing. 2002.
Yeah.
2002, so a little later than expected. Right, and the pièce de résistance, as they say better than me in France. You put in a sketch as well to Graham from Tom Mandrake.
Oh, nice.
Well, thanks, Graham. Actually,
that's
I was well happy with that.
Yeah. So that was a surprise.
Yeah, I didn't know nothing. It wasn't expected. It wasn't like mentioned in the price or anything like that. He just threw that in, plus signed all the books for me.
Well,
the
that's
normal,
just spectacular.
Yeah, as well. I was all happy with that. So that's a prized possession. There you go.
Well,
that's the only sketch I've got. I think. I don't think I've got any other. No.
That's a pretty good sketch to have. No wonder you're a Mandrake fan.
Exactly. And then just the whole run of the Spectre. Great story for a start from John Ostrander.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I mean, it's really horrific. I read a couple of the issues recently.
Some of it is.
It's how have they got past? Did it have the Comic Code Authority thing on it? I think it did.
As far as I know, it did. Yeah, I don't remember it being super, but it might. Maybe I'm used to horror movies and that, so maybe I'm not like as I did enjoy it. It was good. It was a great run. It was quite. The woman at the beginning who's he's trying to save, and the detective loves as well, but she gets stabbed to death by some serial killer, isn't she? That was quite bleak. It was.
And there's another one where some boy has been buried alive underground. I mean, it's just
I need to reread it again. Yeah. I think I have read it through twice. I definitely have read it through twice, but see, the second time, even that was a long time ago now. So
it's proper horror. It's not, gloves. It's not sort of junior horror. It's it's grown up horror.
Yeah, and his style is very suited to horror. It's kind of weird sometimes when you see him do something that's not horror, like even Martian Manhunter. He kind of looks more horrific because he's done it. And I'm always saying that I can't sort of tell. I'm not very good at telling nice who's done what. There's a couple I've started to know, and for some reason I don't know. I can put my finger normally on Tom Mandrake art. It's to do with the shadow. There's something about his shadows. I don't know how. I don't know how you can make a shadow, your own. But I don't know. It's just something about it. I look at this, I look at the faces and that, and I think, that's definitely Tom Mandrake. But yeah, I don't know. There's something about
you get used to. I mean, I can pick up Ditko a mile away.
Yeah.
Kirby, I can spot from a distance.
Yeah. There's something you start to get, and for some reason I can quite often I'll look at something and I go, is that Tom Mandrake? I think it looks like Tom Mandrake. And he is quite helpful because he does sign them normally as well. Normally you can see his signature on his stuff down the side there. But yeah. But yeah, it's in the darkness. You can tell Mandrake from the darkness sometimes. Has everyone got anything they want to show before while we're waiting?
So I haven't brought any Tom Mandrake stuff. I've just
that's all right. We ain't got to bring us Tom Mandrake stuff.
I've just got some stuff off my shelves. So I'm currently reorganising my comic room. So
is that as big a job as it sounds?
Yes. And
is that a new room?
I'm nearly finished actually.
Oh, so, is that a new room you're in now? Because I'm sure you've had about 3 different rooms, or you just redecorated it.
So the room I'm in here is the one with my PC in it, which is my office.
Right.
Okay, but I also have a comic room, which is a different room.
You was in a room in a video the other day. I think it was a video. You looked like you was in a sauna. You got an indoor sauna at all? There's a wooden paneling on the wall. Oh, is he just turn the sauna off for a bit and he just
That'd be nice. No, it's got a wooden floor, which is why it could probably look like a sauna.
Oh, yeah. I saw him wood up the walls as well. I saw there was wood behind you, or maybe it was the back of the chair or something.
Anyway, but so I'm just about to put a video out with my new comic room. I'm really pleased with it, actually.
Yeah, I saw the new Marvel Family ones that you had.
Yeah, they were fantastic. I found them saw them on eBay, and I thought they were normal.
Yeah,
Al Miller normal comic size comics, and he was selling them for. He got 4 of them, and he actually got 5, and I bought 4 of them. I bought one. I bought one. What he was asking for it. The other 3 I put offers in for.
Yeah.
He rejected the offers on the 3, and I bought the 1. He then sent me a message saying, "Oh, since you bought that one, if you put the offers again in on the others, I'll accept them."
That's
so
good.
I went back and put the same offers on the other 3 that I'd originally done.
So he kept them together.
presumably because he was going to get postage.
Yeah.
And I got them in that. I mean, these are comics from 1950-51.
These are UK reprints, though, of the
they're UK reprints, but
that
still.
must have been just sometime before they stopped bringing them over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Man,
I can't remember the date when the lawsuit went through. I think that was about 55, 56.
Oh, was it after the Comics Code Authority that happened, or was it after? No, it was after DC tried to sue them, force it. That's right.
You're right. It wasn't. I can't remember the exact date, but it took the case took about 12 years to go through the courts. Yeah. During which time, of course, Captain Marvel became almost more popular than Superman.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that he was more popular.
Yeah, he had a television series. I think had a series of films. So it was a really big blow for Fawcett when they said, he's too like Superman. Stop it.
Yeah, when they folded a little while after, I think they carried on for a while, didn't they? Doing
they didn't have much else. They didn't have much because it was basically Wiz Comics was Captain Marvel, Young Marvel Man, Marvel Family,
Mary Marvel.
I mean, it just basically stopped it. And of course, Al Miller and Son had got the rights to all these in the UK. Yeah. So when it happened, they employed a guy called Mick Anglo in the UK to create Marvel Man.
Yeah.
So I've literally got the issue where we've got young Captain Marvel. Yeah.
Captain Marvel Jr., isn't it?
Captain Marvel Jr., the last Captain Marvel Jr.
Freddie Friedman
actually advertises Young Marvel Man. I've also got the next issue. One after it is Young Marvel Man appears. Wow. So
so they completely changed the origin as well. I take it that whole Komodo. It's just basically Shazam, isn't it?
Wait, Shazam just changes to Komodo. Yeah.
How did they get away with not being sued by DC? Like literally. Like DC sued Fawcett for having a character too close to Superman, and then over here we just
didn't care about the UK market.
We ripped off the rip-off, and we didn't get any cease and desist over here.
It was how many comics were DC selling in the UK? None.
Yeah,
1950. It was the war. The war was just over. There was no imports of comics.
Still rationing, probably.
Yeah, so they didn't care.
No.
How many comics were DC selling in the UK in 1950? None.
I couldn't tell you, mate. How long did the UK version of Captain Marvel?
It was weekly, so there's actually quite a lot of issues, but it only ran. I think it ran 4 or 5 years before basically Al Miller and Son went kaput.
Right.
Alan Class took over their stock and stuff.
Did you say it was Hackney?
Hackney, yeah.
So that must have been near to the old Lesney, the old Matchbox Toys factory.
I don't know very well. He didn't do that. He used different people to do the printing. That's probably just where his office was. And he he had so I think it was Len Miller. Yeah. So the company starts out as L Miller Limited, and then he has a son, and so the name changes to L Miller and Son.
Right.
And for a period of time, he and his son worked together, and then his son decided to go off and make how shall I put this? Naturist films.
Okay, where do we get to see them then? I have to find a link for them for next week so we can watch those.
And Dad did not approve of this. So it went back. It went from being L Miller and Son back to being L Miller and Co.
Did they have an American cousin called Glenn by any chance?
Oh well, I wish they had. Yeah. So, interesting. I quite like the L Miller and Co stuff. There's quite a few.
Are there any other companies like that in the UK?
Yeah, there was another one at the time doing stuff like that. You will remember them from the stamp you used to get on your comics, and they were called Thorpe and Porter.
Oh yeah.
You remember your little T&P stamp?
Yeah. I've seen. I didn't know what it was for ages. I didn't know this was a stamp. And then someone said something about Thorpe and Porter. I thought, what the hell was that then? And then I realised.
Yeah, so a lot of the US comics that came into the UK, Thorpe and Porter would stamp them with the UK price.
Yeah.
And distribute them in the UK.
Right. Yeah.
So they weren't reprints. This was, the
back when they were shipping them over
coming in, and they'd stamp it with the UK price, and they'd distribute it in the UK. But Thorpe and Porter did their own publishing, so you can get Thorpe and Porter comics. I've got a fair number from the 50s.
Do you know? Is it Ken's comic book channel? Do you know him? He's very
he's brilliant. Yeah, I correspond quite a lot with Ken.
We should get him on here someday. You guys should do a showcase of your. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, Ken Werner. He's got a really good collection of Alan Class comics, and also he collects
Captain America
overseas.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I used to watch his channel videos a lot. Actually, I used to watch him all the time, but.
Yeah, if we can get he's quite a quiet guy and he's quite reserved. But so you might not want to do a show, but I'll see if I can persuade him. He's okay. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Who did you persuade from Thought Bubble, Mark? Who are we gonna get via Mark? Via Thought Bubble?
I got a few people at Thought Bubble who I sort of tapped up. I just need to contact them. There's a guy called Arion Campbell who is very interesting.
Want to come on here, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, all of them. To be honest, if you've got the balls to ask them, they'll come on.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Good thing I got the balls. That's why I keep asking.
Yeah. I'm easy. Like, we could get. We get like if anyone wants to come on. People who creators, people who just show off their comic books. It's all good. So.
Like we talked about earlier, John Bishop, when you watch this, we're going to send you links. You need to come on the show with us when we don't have outside guests and things like that in a cluttered up show, because we need to get John Bishop's space known.
Yeah.
Around everywhere too. And I want to properly introduce John to Mark.
Yeah, I've seen him posting on the London Comics group.
Yeah, it's his group. That's his
group. Oh, okay.
I've probably seen him in passing, but I've never seen a picture of him because he's always got an avatar, hasn't he? He never has his own face up on his. I don't think I'm friends with him on Facebook, but I do see him in the groups a lot. I do see him a lot in groups.
For some reason, I just view him as like he kind of looks like a young Barry Windsor Smith.
We've got both mamas in the chat today. Hey, mamas.
Hey, mama.
I know you guys have both got boys. I hope you've been giving them comic books and say, check out the Grey Man channel. You can get all your comic book information from the Grey Man.
So I went on another Mandrake hunt, and I just kind of gave up because people don't need to see me crawling around ass up in the back of my library.
No, that's what we need.
You want to enlarge me a little bit, and I'll show a few comics.
We don't want to see your big plumber's crack while you're shuffling around on the floor, mate. That's the last thing.
They will know if Roscoe watches this, because this is. I've been meaning to dig this out because when I mail Roscoe his AOK, this is going to be the 80s indie I throw in as a surprise gift.
Death Crazed. Okay. Death Crazed Teenage
Superheroes.
That's definitely 90s.
86 if memory serves.
Okay. That 90s edgy attitude.
Fall of 86. So I dug that out because that's going with Roscoe's other books as an AOK.
Don't look, kids. It's pretty scary old man.
But I'm giving him some 1950s.
Hey, they'll grow up to be scary old men one day. They need to know they need to get a few tips in now before it's too late.
We could they need to be, traumatized for the rest of
their life. Another one I dug out when I was back there, the first appearance of Bite.
Yeah, Blue Devil.
Firestorm, when you ran that, and then it made me laugh because there's my friend Romeo Tango worked on that.
Oh, right.
And the guy he brought into the business, Raphael Kayanen.
Okay.
So
sounds like someone's doing like the alphabet, Romeo Tango, Zulu Bravo.
And then, of course, because I had my JMD Mateus stack, yet another classic DC JMD Mateus.
Oh, I've got a few of those. I was trying to. I was going through my cell pile, and I had a moon shadow in there as well. And I was like, "Oh, that's the one that we were talking about." Did Matt tell us about?
The guy's prolific. He's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's very prolific. He's also been around for 40, 50 years. So.
Yeah,
I did like the art on that moon shadow. I look at it, and it was just like, "Oh, not really loving this art, to be honest."
Hey, evil-tastic. And then I was kind of hoping when mail ran today, I was going to have my JM package, but that, it gets here when it gets here. I was going to kind of want to do a live opening on here, but next week or whatever. And then I gave up on my Mandrake hunt when I just came across this. And of course, we know that's Adams and Giordano.
Yeah.
But, and then the back, a nice little Sienkiewicz. Soup and bats.
Right. But
of course you open up to the main page, and right up top here there's some Jan Duursema work, and then right down there Tom Mandrake, one of his early DC credits. So
what page is he on then?
He is on page.
Flip through it. Let's see if we can work it out.
Right.
Yeah, Gray is a Mandrake spotter.
Test my Mandrake knowledge. Look for the one with the biggest shadows.
He can tell a Mandrake by its shadows.
Yeah, there's a certain ethereal, shadowy quality that he puts into a lot of his panels. So it might not be working.
Right. Well, how difficult is this? This is by page number, and then there's no page numbers on here.
Oh yeah, forget about it then. I actually bought that book the other day. I only bought that one recently because I used to see the cover, and I avoided buying it for a while because I thought, man, it looks like it's going to be a really depressing story. We all know about the blinking hunger in the world and that. It's like superheroes, just comic books. They can't do anything really about hunger in the world. So just that story, I just never bought it. But then I finally bought it. It wasn't a bad story.
Talk about easy to find. He's the page after Kirby, and it took me a second and a half to find the Kirby.
The Kirby one, yeah.
Everyone can peg a Kirby. This is Tony Summons with Tom Mandrake inking.
Oh, okay, right. No, that's okay then. You're not going to recognise the inking. I wouldn't have recognized the inking. Anyway, I hard enough recognising the bloody line work. Anyone can recognise the inking. It's like, you're way ahead of me. But,
Well, I became friends with numerous letterers because I can recognize their hand lettering. So
yeah, that's not me. That is definitely not me. Some of these, people were saying, "Oh, this is good. This is good," and that's like, how can someone should do like a series about why this art is like this, or what how you recognize that person's art and how their work makes it so much better over this person's. I'm always hearing people say, "Oh yeah, that colorist destroyed that person's work," and I'm like, "Well, what did they do? That was I don't get it." Someone needs to do in depth.
This here is a two-page spread of Tom's wife.
Oh, Jan
doing the pencils on this one.
Do you reckon it might be a bit remiss of me if I mentioned that I thought Jan Duursema was a strapping Swedish bloke?
Ooh, what?
I thought Jan Duursema was a strapping Swedish man, like Janus or something like that. I always saw the name Jan Duursema, and I was like, Jan Duursema, he's a big Viking, But yeah, so there you go.
Well, there you go. Yeah, tell him that he's going to reach through the screen and smack you in the head.
Nah,
you can shrink me again. I'm done showing books.
It'll probably do some kind of magic on me
for stuff.
It does sound like a European man's name, Jan, doesn't it?
Jan.
Yeah. So,
well, considering Jan's my mom's name, yes and no.
Well,
no.
I suppose it's probably because it's probably a bit of sexism on my part because you expect mostly like comic books is mostly a boys' game, isn't it? You didn't really know much about women. I didn't really because.
Did you not watch my thing the other day when I showed the first all-women comic?
Yeah, I did watch that. Doesn't mean
you want me to name the names of
they,
those?
They wouldn't have made a comic called Women Comics if women were working that much in comic books, would they? That's the whole point of there being a women comics. Is highlight the fact that
Ramona Fradon was
I know
really broke through, but.
Yeah.
No, Maria.
But no, they're golden age women artists.
Yeah. So. Well, there definitely are, but I didn't know them. So I just all the time as a kid, just looking at them, I just saw men's names, and so I kind of assumed it was like a On the other side of the coin, I did see someone who's into like Lovecraft, and I think he wrote articles, and I thought it was a woman because her name was Lynn Carter, and I assumed it was like Linda, that kind of thing. Apparently, it's a bloke, but oh well.
If that's the case, I just learned that today.
Yeah.
I mean, that has been a huge change. It's one of the biggest changes in my lifetime. So I got out. I got the conference brochure from the London Comic Con. I can't remember, 1984, something like that. Got it out of my attic, and back then, I can remember if you went along, 96% of the people who were there were male. And they actually listed all the people who pre-registered. I was one of them, and I went through it, and it was exactly that. It was about 95% guys.
Yeah.
The 5% women that were there because they were there with their bloke. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the brochure, the artists had all contributed, something to the convention brochure, and there were no women artists at all.
It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot.
Well, so I went up to Thought Bubble. I would say attendance 50-50, if not slightly more female.
That's cool.
Cool.
But it always used to be like
not a sausage party anymore.
No, but comics always used to be a boys' toy, though, didn't they? Back in the day, back in our youth, it was always like the boys. If you even look at the female characters, they're just female versions of the boys, aren't they? She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Spider-Woman. So, yeah. I don't know what that says about anything. I'm not going to make any political or social commentary on that. It's just how it was.
But also the comic creators, I would say the comic creators, it was probably 60-40 male, female, but, considering that it was 100% zero when I was back in 1984.
It has changed a lot.
Huge change. For the better.
Yeah. I imagine I don't know, maybe it was considered as a boys' thing, so maybe women didn't go into the industry because they thought, it's a boys' thing. I don't know. So especially back in the early days, back in the 50s and 40s when women's work.
My guess is, if you were back in the Marvel office with Stan and Jack in 1960, it wouldn't have been a very female.
Yeah, I bet.
Friendly environment, would it?
I bet, yeah. I would not be at all surprised if there was a bit of a toxic environment for females in the comic book world, especially back in the day when it was like a lot of it was like pulps and that were run by Matthew, weren't they? Back in the day, a lot of them in
pretty much, but I gotta hugely correct you on that, and they're all on record for saying it. There are two reasons that the Marvel offices were never toxic back then. Flo Steinberg.
I know there was an editor. Was an editor? She was there for ages, wasn't she?
Flo Steinberg was the receptionist.
Yeah.
And she was one of the boys, but you will hear all these stories from the 60s up of how wonderful Flo Steinberg was, because she's the one that handed out all the Mary Marvel Marching Society things and did all the charitable things with it.
Did she pass recently? I'm sure I saw an article about
Yeah, like 2018 or something. But Flo Steinberg was just the mom there, and they loved her to no end. Yeah. And Marie Severin was everybody's little sister. So they love Marie Severin. So that's what they say about Marvel. They didn't have time to be toxic because the people who ran the shop when it was scaled down to nothing were actually Flo ran it. Flo ran it. There were
she did the day-to-day cogs and wheels and made sure the coffee was filled up. And
Saul Brodsky did all the
emptied and
Stan's the face, but Saul Brodsky did all the production. Flo ran the office, and Stan ran around and did the freelance.
DC had a female editor-in-chief quite in the 80s, didn't they? Can't remember her name. Who came in? Can't remember her name.
Well, Karen Berger was around for a long time at DC, wasn't she?
Yeah, Karen was at DC. Nobody's been editor-in-chief of a female yet at Marvel.
Well, she was a role then. There was some. I remember seeing
there were high-ranking editors from.
Might have been marketing or something. I don't know. I remember someone coming in and they wrote an article in the back of one of their comic books, a little mini interview, that kind of thing.
As far as Marvel's editor-in-chief goes,
Can't remember what her name was though.
I mean, Stevie Silbowski's in there now, but it's been nothing but big names in the EIC seat. It went from Stan to Roy, then it did that 5-guy jump with Ween and them, and then Quesada took over for a couple of decades, or about a decade and a half.
Yeah.
Now it's CB Silbowski.
I don't know him.
Which it's kind of funny with him. He's the hidden character in a lot of the Marvel video games. Because that's where he came from or whatever. But yeah, they haven't had a woman editor-in-chief yet. And, if you ask a lot of people who the greatest editor in comics ever was, Karen Berger's name is going to come up a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A lot.
I remember her name, to be honest.
It's a love fest. She ran the Vertigo line, and it's just a love fest.
She's responsible for commissioning Sandman.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a love fest for her. She was apparently the greatest editor anybody's ever worked for, understanding, open-minded, could be strict when she needed to be and say, I need this by this date. I'm not screwing around with you. Make sure you get it taken care of, but I'll work with you instead of cookie cutter stuff. I mean, I have seen nothing but love for that woman. Nothing but love.
Cool.
And like people just compare it to others, because, everybody knows the history of Stan's half-ass editing. He'd write, edit, and just kind of half-ass take the credit when he could take the credit. But let's get the book out there. Let's make our money, kind of dealer and dealer. But there's a few editors.
The ethic behind it, the ethic behind comics has changed a heck of a lot, hasn't it?
Well, the whole concept with comics is different ways to print money. Ain't no difference between comic books and money. It's stuff printed on paper that has intrinsic value. That's why I always make jokes about money.
I'm not sure anybody's making huge amounts of money from comics anymore.
So
no, not great amounts.
I think they're just doing it because it backs up the MCU.
The only real money in comics anymore are the big guys moving around the high end books. If you're not moving something worth tens of thousands or more, you're just hustling. But that'll swing back around too. I mean, this has been this way from the beginning. You can go back to the Forey Ackerman days where they were building up fandom, and then you hit the EC fanatics and all that stuff, and it builds up, and then it crashes, then it builds up, then it crashes, and it builds up, and it crashes. And we're on a hard down slope, but that doesn't mean the value of this stuff still ain't. They're literally, like when I try and explain to family what my comic books are like, they are literally like winning lottery tickets. Almost every comic book I have is a winning lottery ticket. But now a lot of them are just a $1 scratch off where you get all there is to it. But then there's those $5 sprinkled in, and then the 10ers sprinkled, and then the 20s, and then the 50s, and then the 100s, and then there's the handful of thousands, and then sometimes you can get 5-6 figures into these things. But except for a handful of books upstairs of mine, they're all worth more than I paid for them.
Yeah.
All of them.
So. I think I'm kind of worried about, because I've got a couple of books I'm trying to sell, no big takers whatsoever, and I kind of think to yourself, hey, is that a general thing? Like, we've got all these comic books we're holding on to, thinking, they're worth this and that. Unless, when you actually try and sell them, unless they're like the big keys, maybe, will they actually go? I'm only trying to sell a couple of minor keys, not even a sniff. A couple of old JLAs, like the first Red Tornado, first.
I want that. I want that. That is so high. The first Red Tornado is so high on my list. I'm gonna figure out a way to get that from you.
Oh well, I'll take them off eBay and stick them both on a trade pile then.
That right there, that is probably in my top 20 want to trade for now, because I love the old Red Tornado, and I know the first appearances aren't that great, but I'd rather have the first.
We are talking Silver Age here, not Ma Hunkel, the Golden Age Red Tornado.
No, like I traded away my first Silver Age Vision, and I didn't lose sleep over it because I wanted it. I got it. I had it. Whatever. I've never had. I've never had the first red tornado.
Yeah, Noggins feeling it as well.
But and he really didn't take off for me until obviously the late 70s when they really did stuff with him. Then he kind of petered back out. But man, I always wanted to at least own it for a little while. But now Mark's a bookseller, so he's not going to buy into this as far as that end goes because he's selling like lots of stuff. Yeah. But something I've always learned: one, if you make more money and you paid for it,
yeah, you come out.
You're already a win. If you didn't put too much work into it, so like if it's I'll just use the basic. If it was a 1 pound book and you sold it for 2 pounds, knock off 50 cents of work, you're happy. You made a 25% profit. But the bottom line is like you look at the value of a comic and even the condition. And if I look at it and I go, all right, like I'm not going to say what I spent for it or anything, but take my first appearance of Black Panther. I have X amount of money invested into that and taken care of it over the years. And if I went for maximum profit, I'd grade it, but I don't want to grade it. So I'm going to knock that off. I'm going to take the hit for the difference between raw and graded. And then I think if I paid this much, if I got half of the expected value, I'd be more than happy because almost all of that is pure profit. So anything I get above half is just perfect, and that's a major key. So then I look at the other ones and go, all right, I got this out of the 50-cent bin or the 25p bin or whatever for you guys. And you figure every dollar you get is almost just money in your pocket. But if you go through them, you could probably get 2, 3, 4, or 5 if you process it, grade it out, flatten it, do all that crap with it. But if you're happy to sell 100 of them for 100 and you clear 75% profit, but you could have made 3 times that, who cares? If you move it quick, you got your profit, you got it off your hands. And if you learn to be happy with that, you'd be good. But like that's not a good business model, like for what Mark's thinking, because Mark's got a business with it. So that's not a good business, but it's a good dump off. Because if you're selling to a business, they're going to give you 50p, and then you're going to be like, okay, I only made 25p per extra. And then they're going to sell them for $1 or $3. So you just got to be able to say, all right, I'm good with only making this much and moving on.
Yeah, it depends how cheap you get them for.
Yeah, exactly. It's like any business. It's about skill in buying and skill in selling, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can buy if you can buy an $80 book for $20, then you can easily sell that for 40 to 50. Yeah. You've made a nice profit. You've doubled your money. And the guy that's buying from you is also happy because he's paid $50 for an $80 book. So that's the real skill, is making sure you can buy cheap, because if you buy cheap, everybody, your customer, they're more likely to be there. If you buy it for 20, sell it for 50, it's worth 80, you're going to get a buyer. If you buy it for 50 and try and sell it for 80, it's going to stick in stock.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be loads of other people who are trying to sell it for 80 or 75, just undercutting you under.
And we've all got that story where we found that amazing book in the dollar.
I haven't.
Whatever. We've all got.
I bloody well haven't. It's about bloody time. It's about bloody time I had one of them stories.
Yeah.
I've got stories where I've paid too much for a book, but no, the other way around.
I got my first Crow appearance for 50 cents, and that's worth hundreds. When I do eventually let go of it, but I got it for 50 cents. But it's high grade raw. So
I tried to get him to trade that. He wouldn't trade it.
Not yet.
Sorry?
Caliber presents #1.
Okay, never heard of it.
I mean, he had a back cover appearance on another book, which they consider the first like cameo, but Caliber Presents #1. And I've had cash offers. I've had trade offers. I'm not ready to trade that one yet, but I'm also not ashamed to admit that's one of my 50-cent books. I got it for 50 cents.
Yeah, well, so
but we all have those.
No one's going to be ashamed about that.
Yeah, we all have those little stories. But if I told people how much or how little I have invested in my comics upstairs, it would explode people's minds. Because like my friend I talked to earlier goes, well, you know, everybody knows around here you're a savant when it comes to this stuff. I am literally an idiot savant with it. But I have the best dumb shit luck. If I said the most I've ever spent on a comic would make you throw up, knowing what I've had in my collection, knowing the most I've ever spent, and for what I spend on average for what's up there would spin your head. Because you've seen some of the insanely rare things I have. I mean, insanely rare. I have what do you reckon, Mark? I have more than 100 things where you could just call it unique.
Yeah, I mean, there's some really,
which there's a chunk coming out of that. There's a chunk coming out of that to how many unique things I have, because that man right there is a badass. That man, I cannot say enough. I'm going to go down the flattery road. So again, with you Brits and not taking the flattery.
Is he pointing at you, Mark? I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know who he's pointing at. He's pointing over there.
Mark is an awesome fella.
Oh, over there.
Oh.
Gray, you're an amazing fella too, and I'll get back to you there. But you know, if you guys can't take compliments, get over it. I'm the compliment guy.
Yeah, we don't need you. We don't need this.
Him and I have done, and I haven't discussed details, nor will I discuss details outside of him and I of what we did.
Mark's told me all about it. You should hear what he says about you behind your back.
Yeah, well, but we did a big trade, and if it, you know, everybody will see it when we do our box opening and things like that. Yeah, but, you know, we did a big trade.
You have to show it here as well.
We get it in good. Both of us are tickled.
Once you get them, show them on the weekly stream as well. That'd be cool.
But I don't know if Mark wants to tell how much, because I mean, we told more than once the Batman 15 was going to you.
Yeah, I don't want to say. I mean, a trade, I think. I mean, we did a rough, you know, we'd roughly calculate that fair market value. So we were both in the same ballpark. Yeah. And it was pretty tricky to do, actually, because some of Kyle's stuff is impossible to value.
Yeah. That's the thing, though. When he's got that rarity, it's like he can go two ways. Either it's worth a lot or no one wants it.
3 or 4 items of Kyle's that I might have paid too much. I might have undervalued them. I have no idea.
You didn't pay too much, but I came out okay good. But you didn't go too much, and some of those I think you're going to be able to, if you sell them, you're going to be able to triple the value that we have.
Some of those rare items, you won't know what they're worth until we went on to auction.
I mean, there was this Chinese Batman that had been signed by Neil Adams, okay. And Carl was saying when Neil signed it, he said, "I've never seen one of these.
Never seen it.
He isn't on the cover, but he had done one of the stories inside."
Okay.
And I found this. I did manage to find this Chinese Batman.
So what is it? A China reprint? Is it?
It's a Hong Kong Batman. It's the first Hong Kong. When in 88, 89, when Hong Kong became independent from Great Britain, they actually did their own publishing, and this publishing house is the first non-Hong Kong comic book. That is the first.
Well, they produced 9. They produced 9.
British
actually, they did They produced 9 in this edition, and it was also for a World Comic Fair.
Yeah.
But they're like ghosts. That just trying to find the comic itself, I couldn't find a single record of. Well, there was nothing on current eBay. I went through and did sold listings. It's not there. So even the comic itself in Chinese, I mean, the Chinese just don't reprint American comics. It's just a ghost itself. And then having got it signed by Neil Adams, I mean, who knows what it's worth? I mean, Kyle and I sort of bashed
exactly.
it about a bit, and we ended up with a value. I've no idea whether I've give,
honest to goodness, I'd say if you went to sell that, you'd have to get it authenticated through a third-party authenticator because
that's what I was saying though.
But it is 100% authentic, and I guarantee if you go to flip it, you're going to triple your money.
Well, anyway, so
it's like having a piece of original art. It literally is a one of one. You will not find another one of those signed. You just will not.
Yeah.
Granted, he signed it in 2011, but yeah, you'd be lucky to find the book, much less find the sign.
Yeah.
So what's worth. So anyway, we put some values on these things.
Yeah.
My stuff was easier to value because it was more sort of mainline.
Yeah.
Marvel, DC. There's a giant sized X-Men #1, and there's a there's a lot of X-Men. So mine's easy to value.
Yeah.
So it was about $10,000 trade.
Yeah, I've been hesitant to say that yet, but yeah, that's what we came.
But as long as you're both happy with the what you've traded, then that's what matters, isn't it? Really?
And I'd say Mark made out like a bandit because the bulk of this trade for him is one of his auction house king deals where he just made out like a bandit.
Yeah.
And what he's getting for it, he wouldn't be able to get for even a snip of what he paid for that X-Men collection.
Mr. Mandrake is here.
Oh, there we go.
Mr. Mandrake is here.
Look at that smile on Graham's
face. Are you ready to come straight on? Hello.
Hello there, Tom.
Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Look at that grin on Graham's face. You were his number one. You were his number one choice.
Yeah.
I reached out to you for that smile on his face.
I'm all nervous now. I was all right before. Now I'm all nervous. How you doing? You had a good day?
Very good. Busy day. It's always a busy day when you're teaching at the Kubert School.
Yeah. I think I saw you did their horror course as well or something like that. Is that what you do now? Or
well, I did co-write the horror course with Joe quite a few years ago. That's a correspondence course. But what I teach at the school currently is narrative art and sequential art for the second and third year students.
Okay. Interesting. I'd like to talk more about this school because, what it's like there and all that. But maybe we can plow through your history. Can we go back to year one or your early formative years? I'd like to know how you discovered your artistic talent and what nurtured it and what influenced it, sort of thing. If that's possible.
Sure. Where shall we start?
I'll let you decide. When did you? When you first started to draw, what was it that drew you to drawing and discovering that you could do it?
Well, I was always interested in comics and movies, art in general, because my dad was interested in comics. He was a big horror fan, a big pulp magazine fan. You can see, point over this way, that way.
I'll put you on the big screen.
Hold
on. Shut up, Carl. I'm putting you on the big screen.
There's a bunch of pulp magazines behind me here. Those were my dad's. So I had access to that kind of material early on, and a lot of approval on the part of my father for that kind of thing. We used to argue about who was better, Superman and Captain Marvel, that kind of thing.
Cool.
So who was better?
Well, I don't anymore. I don't much care. But at the time, I was the Superman fan, and he was the Captain Marvel fan. So
cool.
Which I would have thought would have been flipped simply because you would have been the kid, and then having the kid aspect versus the adult aspect.
Well, when I was a kid, there were no Captain Marvel comic books. We're talking about the early '60s, and I had just recently discovered I was a big Marvel fan early on, and sort of begrudgingly bought Superman comics when I couldn't find anything else to read. So I'd buy all the Marvels, and then when I was done with that, I'd buy the DC comics. So I was a Superman fan by proxy because I couldn't find any Captain Marvel stuff. And Dad would say, "Oh, well, if you had read Captain Marvel, you'd really like that too."
There you go. And I gotta ask, and I'm a big Marvel guy too. Do you still have those old Marvels?
I do have some of them, and the first Marvel book that I bought myself, own money, was The Avengers #4, where Captain America returns.
Oh, that's a nice one.
And I had no idea what was going on. I bought the comic book. I got all excited because there's Captain America and he's returned, but I didn't know who he was. I just thought, Captain America. And so I remember showing it to my dad and saying, "Look, this is awesome. Captain America returns. Who's Captain America?" So he had to explain it to me, But yeah, that memory is very firmly burned in my mind. So it's my copy is ripped to hell, after being read like 1,000 times, but I still got it.
And yet it's perfect. It's a Gem Mint 10 all day long just for that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that how you cut your teeth with art? Was you like copying the comic books? Is that what sort of your early art was?
Yeah, I used to draw all over them and pull them apart, and like everybody else. And so most of my comics, you didn't think about it at the time. You read them until they fell apart, and you lent them to other people, and they for the most part were trashed.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. I remember some of the old comic books have got the adverts in for. If you could draw this picture, you could go to art school, and there was the Joe Kubert art. I think they had some adverts. Is that how you ended up going to them? Did you see them all with adverts and think, "Oh, that's for me"?
Well, when I got out of high school, I went for about a year or two a school in Cleveland called the Cooper, Cooper School of Art. And that was in the 1950s, that was a very prestigious art school. But by the time I was going there, kind of had lost a little bit of its grip in terms of being a solid art school. But I went there thinking, it was going to be a good place to go. But they were relatively negative about their attitude toward comic book art. They were pretty down on the whole thing. But while I was going there, I saw an ad for the Kubert School. That would have been the first class, which I think started in '76. And I was like, wow, that's where I got to go. Okay. So I quit going to school, took a year off, did some factory work, got some money together, threw what I had in my car, and I drove to New Jersey. And that was it. Yeah.
Was that a long way for you to go? Was it to go there?
I'm sorry, say again?
Was it a long distance from where you were living at the time?
I lived in Ohio.
New Jersey, so less than 1,000 miles.
Okay, that's a long distance. If you're in the UK, that's a long distance.
For us, it's not much. I'm in Indiana. These guys are in the UK. I'm in Indiana, so I can relate to the Midwest thing.
It's 423 miles from my mom's house.
Okay. What was it like back then in the early days? Has it changed a lot over the years?
Well, yes, because the school was, it was unformed. So I was in the second graduating class, 77 to 79. It was a 2-year school. It was uncredited. They were flying by the seat of their pants. It was great. We had wonderful instructors, and while they may not have exactly had a curriculum together, they were great guys, all professional cartoonists. We had Joe and Hy Eisman and Tex Blaisdell and Erwin Hazen and Dick Giordano, Dick Ayers, guys who really cut their teeth in the business. They knew what they were talking about.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some heavyweights there,
Yeah. And then obviously your classmates were pretty awesome, apparently, huh?
Oh, yeah. So Jan Duursema and Jeff Altieri and Ron Randall and Kim DeMulder. And, it's funny, we were talking about that. I was just sitting here trying to repair this. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I've got this page that Kim inked. This is a Swamp Thing page from an issue.
Oh, wow.
This lettering just fell off of it. This is lettered on the board, except for this one little piece. I got to get this reattached.
It was like, what's that? Crocodiles pulling a chariot, it looks like.
Yes. This is from, what year is this? God, I have no idea. This must be from the 80s, Swamp Thing. And This is Bayou Swamp Thing. So he's got crocodiles in a.
And you reattach that with basic rubber cement, or is there something specific?
I was thinking about using rubber cement, but I may use some spray-on stuff. It's great to have these lettered on the boards like this one is, but then there was that period of time where then they just started putting the lettering on with all photostats, and they would put wax down and put them on. And then those are like all over the place. I've got a box full of lettering that's not attached to anything. I hate that.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it just fell off. You don't know where it came from. Is that kind of thing? Is it?
Yeah. You have a box full of artwork and random lettering.
But the old school way was rubber cement, right? Just simple rubber cement.
Well, the old school way, for the most part, like I've got several pages in this.
Oh my God!
Because I pulled them out of a box the other day. Most of these pages are just lettered right on the board, so the lettering is attached. So back at this time, you would pencil it, then the letterer would letter right on the board, then you get it back, and then you would ink it. So that this is not coming off here. This is solid.
Yeah, cool.
And that's the best way.
Some of those loose letters you could go through the family album and stick the loose word, like titles over like family pictures, so you can come up with some good combinations. That would be quite fun.
Right.
So when you went to the Joe Kubert School, was it? Did you have to do an entrance exam, or did you just have to give your money?
So yeah, before you get accepted, the first time I drove out to New Jersey, at least for this reason, I had to put a portfolio together and come out and meet Joe and show him my portfolio, because at that time Joe was the one who did the portfolio reviews. I was sweating bullets. I was going to meet Joe Kubert for the first time and show him my portfolio. I was terrified. But Joe was a sweetheart. He's a great guy. And he looked over my stuff and shook me by the hand and said, "Tom, you're the kind of guy we want here." I was so relieved.
Was there any like flaws in your early art that they helped to knock out of you, or to correct on you, or was it just about?
Like everybody else, I was raw as hell. My stuff was pretty crude, but I was pretty determined too. So anything anybody told me to do, I would, I'd make the effort to fix it. So by the time I was out of school, like as I say, it was a 2-year school at the time, and then shortly after that, it became a 3-year school. But for me and for Jan and Kim and several of the other people, we were able to get backups in Sergeant Rock right away. And that was all through Joe, making sure that we, progressed. We were doing backups for Sergeant Rock, and I got background work for DC, and that was largely through the benefit of working with Dick Giordano. So I was doing backgrounds on Supergirl for Vinnie Coletta. I was doing backgrounds for Vinnie. $8 a page. I was getting $8 a page on that. And I was doing a lot of work on those backgrounds too. In fact, I still have up on the wall over here, I've still got a check. Remember where you came from. It's $64 for one of the jobs I did, $8 a page for myself. Wow. Yeah, so that's what I was initially doing. And I also managed to pick up a job right before I finished school at the Kubert School as an art director for a magazine, Modern Drummer magazine. They came around looking for an art director at the school. I didn't know anything about drumming, but I knew a little bit about art directing, especially paste ups and mechanicals and things like that. So I got a part-time job working as an art director, and that paid some of the bills. And I don't know if you're aware that, Jan Duursema, who is a classmate of mine, we also got married. We've been married since 1980.
Yeah. I was going to ask about what's it like having two artists in the house. Do you like help each other out? Is it like any weaknesses? Like, Jan, I can't draw horses. Can you come give me pointers or something like that?
We have helped each other out many a time, and there have been jobs where the pages just flying back and forth. Mostly, I'm sure you're aware we have our own things that we do, but sure, there have been plenty of jobs where we've assisted each other, and both of our kids are artists and developing their own careers too. In fact, our daughter Sean teaches at the Kubert School now too.
Wow!
So they both went to the Kubert School as well.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Has the school grown in like numbers, like how many students it has and that kind of stuff, and like area that it's schooled in?
Well, I believe that I'm not sure about the number of students right now. I'm going to guess there's probably 90 students in the whole school right now, and it's changed locations too. So when I was going there, it was in what they call the Baker Mansion, which is just a nice, beautiful old house that's in Dover. I should say the outskirts of Dover. And now it's in a large, what was at one time a high school and then a middle school that's right in town. So it's a much bigger building, a much different venue. Mm-hmm. So they can handle more students than they were using or taking in when I was going to school there.
Okay,
cool. I'm going to chime in real quick. I don't want to step on Gray because Gray is going to want to ask you a million questions. But I got to hit you with a couple. And I know I'd sent that original message to you and was trying to get in touch with you, and then JM put us directly in touch. JM shot you that message, and I didn't want to bug you then, but I am going to say it live. We'd also be honored, of course, you're here today. If you ever want to come back on, that'd be awesome. If Jan ever wanted to come back on, wow, would that be cool? If your kids wanted to come on, anything like that. What an exceptionally cool household that is for us comic book guys to be able to go, wow, look at that. There's a household of, we grew up on you guys' comics.
I was going to say, was it awkward to work out what kids' pictures to stick on the fridge? You know, when your kids draw a little picture, you must have had so much competition, like to who's going to go on the fridge kind of thing when they were growing up.
This place is crawling with artwork. It's
and I don't know if you want to. I'm guessing you're on your computer or whatever. I don't know if you want to pick it up, but I know I'm speaking for everyone watching. I'd give my right arm to look around that room you're sitting in right now.
Yeah,
well, you're seeing the cleanest part of the room right now. I'd prefer
that. Or even the walls. I mean, you just say I got this on the walls. You pull those things out. We're in awe. I mean, I'm an all the time talker, chatty Cathy, get me going anyway. And I figure I'm going to lay back because these guys are DC guys. I'm not. But you start pulling out original art and tell them stories, and my jaw just drops and my eyes get closer. And I'm like, oh, how amazing is that? How cool is that? That, I'm guessing you have overlapping work with Jan and Arion or anything like that. And I could just sit here for hours and go, hey, how about that? And hey, what about that? And how about this issue number 5 or 13?
Now, Tom, you have to see here that Graham and myself are English.
Yeah.
And Kyle is American. So we're very restrained. And the best compliment you're going to get from us is, well, it was pretty good.
That's extraordinary. That just
Cal, can we ask you questions? We can get stuff from Tom now, please.
Yeah. Now you guys can go back to the question.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about your surname, Mandrake. It's you could have gone to Hogwarts with a surname like that. Is that also, was Mandrake the Magician one of your favourites as a kid, that kind of thing? But
our name, family name, actually. My grandfather, my father's father, was actually born in, from what we can tell, he was born in Czechoslovakia. He came from Prague, but his name wasn't actually Mandrake. And he was an infant when he came here. As close as we can tell, his name was something like Manzarik or Manarek, something similar to that. Yeah. When he came to the U.S., he was given the opportunity to either pick his own name or was helped to find a name by the woman who adopted him, and it became Mandrake. So cool. while I do have some English blood and English surname, he in fact was not English. Yeah. So we ended up with that name, which I do love. Yeah. Oddly enough, the person who gave me that name was Czech rather than English.
Yeah, it's like an anglicized version of the original name, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
A lot of people did that, didn't they? They sort of changed their surnames to make it sound more, interesting.
Anglicized. All right. So you said Manzarik. if you do a blood test or whatever, one of them
DNA test.
lineage test, are you going to find it? How would you feel if you found out you were related to Rayman's Eric? Little Doors joke there.
Okay.
So, that'd be just an obscure thing there, but
so it was always comics for you then. So you started doing like other art, but like you went to this, to the Kubert School. Was it always comics you wanted to work in, even?
Yeah, I was really focused on wanting to work in comics. Early on, I had some interest in working in animation, and I did 1 or 2 jobs in animation. I was like, it's good work, but it's not for me.
Right.
And by the time you get around to the 1980s, book illustration was becoming a more and more difficult field to get into. I've done some book illustration, and it's great, but I think what I enjoy the most is the storytelling aspect, the narrative aspect of comics. It's also what I love to teach. So no matter what I do, I always come back to what's my favorite thing. It's the storytelling.
Yeah.
So even when it comes down to people want commissions and can you do me a drawing of this or a drawing of that? It's like, yeah, I can do that, but it's nowhere near as interesting to me as resolving the problems of storytelling.
Showing the action on the page, so you're showing it in a picture form rather than in exposition, kind of telling the story.
Absolutely,
the art tells the story.
So when you work with a writer, do you prefer it if they give you a rough idea of what they want or an exact idea of what they want?
There was a time when I would have emphatically said that I prefer a plot style. That I have the freedom to work plot style. And I did a ton of work, especially with John Ostrander.
Yeah.
And John preferred to work plot style, and we bounced off each other very well that way. Working with John, we'd get together, we'd hash the story out together. He'd write a plot, I'd do the pencils, he'd do the script. And for us, that was an ideal way to work. However, not all writers work well plot style. Some guys write a great script, and it's easier for them, and therefore for me, to just take that script, and with the understanding that there's a likelihood that I'll change some of the storytelling, not just because I want to be a dick. I don't want to. It's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to help the storytelling along. And I've never really had anybody come back and say, "Wow, you ruined that."
Right.
I do it to make the storytelling better. So with the understanding that when I feel that there needs to be a change, I'll do it. It always works out for the best. So I'm comfortable working either way, and I'm happy to work either way. So anymore, I don't have a preference. I find that the challenges of both represent just a world of interest for me.
Right. Was Ostrander the favourite person you've collaborated with, or you've collaborated with so long? Like the Martian Manhunter run and the Spectre run, I think. So is he the person you collaborated with the most, or has there been someone else you worked with?
Well, in terms of the amount of work that we've done together, John would certainly be the one that I have done the most work with, because we did, I forget how many issues of Grimjack we did together, but it must have been, I don't know, 3 or 4 years worth of Grimjack issues. And we did 12 issues of Firestorm, and 5 years in Spectre, and 3 years in the Martian Manhunter. And there was a couple other projects in there that I'm blanking out on right. But yeah, just in terms of sheer volume, without a doubt, I've done more work with John than anybody else.
Is there any plans to do any more in the future?
We don't have anything lined up right now.
Is that you're not actively looking for something to do together, or it's just if it happens, it happens?
It's more of that, right now. It's just I've got a bunch of other stuff lined up, and John and I haven't talked about doing anything together in the near future. So, but you never know. One day you just say, "Hey, I've got an idea," and then you go.
There's that creeps as well. So I showed off my creeps earlier on. I bought these off you from your website. I'm sure that website hasn't changed since I bought these in 2002. It's like 20 years. I'm not sure you've updated your website, have you? It looks very...
That might be there is an old website that I used to have that's not really mine.
Oh.
It's probably the website that you're talking about.
Okay, none of the links work, and it's like I remember that's why I ordered these from now back in the day. I'm sure it was, and I was you sent me a sketch, and you signed them all, and I was like, I got these. I was well excited.
I got a feeling that's that old website. I've got a new one since then that I only put up 4 or 5 years ago. So
I need to find the link to that so I can put it in the description down below so people can come and visit you.
I'll get you guys a link for that.
Yeah, cheers. I can update everything.
Okay.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. If you have access to my Instagram, it's all in my link tree on my Instagram. I'm really bad at this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I need to get all your links so I can stick them in the description. Yeah. Have you got a favourite character that you worked on?
That's always a tough one. And it would be easy enough to say the Spectre, only because that became like the fan favorite. But realistically, I don't have a personal favorite. When I go to conventions, I know what I'm going to draw for sketches. I'll come in and I'm going to be drawing the Spectre, the Martian Manhunter, Batman, and the Swamp Thing. That's what I would like to get. And then there'll be like odd ones that'll come up, like somebody will come running up and say, draw me Blockbuster or somebody out of nowhere, which is always fun.
I'd like to see your Judge Dredd. I bet you do a mean Judge Dredd. Have you ever drawn Judge Dredd?
I've done some Judge Dredds, at conventions. I would love to do a Judge Dredd story. That would be really fun.
Yeah. I think Spectre is like the most sort of suiting to your style, your look, and something about it. I always sort of was all shadow and creepy and etherealness, and like he was just just perfect in Spectre.
It's always interesting how you become known for doing something. Thank God you become known for doing anything. It's a blessing. You don't necessarily start off being or thinking, well, I'm going to become the crossover horror superhero artist, but when it becomes that, and the Spectre sort of became my iconic character, which was great because I love it, But you don't necessarily aim for it, but you get it, and then it's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. And about the creeps, that was you worked with? Was it Mishkin on this?
Yeah, Dan Mishkin and I did that together.
Yeah, no plans to do any more with that.
We never seemed to get an opportunity to do more issues of that. We've talked about it on and off, but it's funny how you come up with an idea, you get something done, and then you just keep. I'm always like running on to the next thing. It's like I just finished the project with JM. We did Wisdom, and we got that done, and hopefully we're going to do the next issue. But meanwhile, I just finished another graphic novel with Steve Niles, and I've got another one that I'm working on now and I can't really talk about this one that I'm working on because they want me to keep quiet about it. But it's always like my feet are moving constantly because, well, first it's what I love to do, so I'm just constantly working on.
So, how do you split your time between the teaching and the doing the art?
Well, I keep my teaching limited to 2 days a week.
Okay.
So that first, I've made the mistake before of like taking on more teaching hours than that, and then it's like I'm killing myself. Can't do this.
Yeah, don't do that.
And then, so when I'm teaching, it fills up my time incredibly. So during the school year, I'm just like working all the time and taking a few hours off here and there. And then during the summer, then, I have more freelance time. But there's a huge benefit for me to teach, and that is that I have access to all these young people and their enthusiasm and their interests. And I just think it's a fantastic thing. Plus, that benefit of giving back, that's what Joe was doing. He was giving back, and all the teachers had helped me out, teaching me how to do all of this work. And I think as much as anything, that's the reason I'm at the school. And of course, there's a new owner there, Anthony. He bought the school, was it 2 years ago? And he's a young guy. He was in my daughter Sean's class. And he's bringing the school some new enthusiasm back into it. So it was nice to sort of, I was there at the beginning when the school started, and now I'm back for its rebirth, and it just feels good.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So it's not in the Kubert family.
Does your wife teach show as well?
Yeah.
And your daughter?
Yeah.
Should we call the Tom Mandrake School, surely?
I'm going to write my name in Sharpie on the front.
Good idea. Dear.
Favorite Joe Kubert story.
I'm sorry?
Favorite Joe Kubert story.
Favorite Joe Kubert story. Well, let's see. Joe was such a big influence on me and on Jan, and he was, for me, he's still a voice in the back of my head. And I've talked to Andy Kubert about this before. Joe would tell you how to do stuff, and then he would say, "You're not going to understand this for like 5-10 years. So I'm going to tell you how to do this. I'm going to explain it to you." And Joe's approach to teaching or telling you how to do, he would just lay it out flat. Here, do it this way, and you'll understand later on. Or if you didn't do something right, you knew it because he would go. You never wanted to see that, because you just like, oh man, I screwed up bad.
Not angry, just disappointed.
Oh yeah, that feeling that you just disappointed him with your terrible artwork. You didn't know what was wrong, but you got that thing. But he's still in the back of my head. He's still doing that. But he was right about not understanding a lot of what he was explaining until years later. And as I say, I was discussing that with Andy relatively recently, actually. And it wasn't until 5 or 10 years after I was out of the school and working professionally all that time, that a lot of the stuff that Joe had been telling me was finally sinking in. I was suddenly going, oh, that's what he was talking about. And now I find myself, I'm talking to students. I don't do this one.
I was going to ask that.
But I found out from the students, because you do these things unconsciously. So roundabout, I can't remember if it was Sean telling me this or one of the former students, they told me I do this. Apparently I have a tell also.
Excellent. So tell me, and I spoke to JM last week and asked him the same question, because you're both older than me, and I retired a couple of years ago. What is it that gets you out of bed in the morning and says, I want to go off and work, whereas you could be retired?
Well, I think it's just that I have yet to feel like I've done all the drawing and all the storytelling that I want to do. I just love doing what I do. I love drawing, and I love telling stories, and I've got jobs on the board that I want to do, and that's just who I am. Given the opportunity to stop doing this, I'm like, why would I stop? If I retire, what would I be doing? Well, I'd be getting up and coming into the studio and drawing pictures. So
yeah, why not?
Yeah.
As long as you can hold the pencil and that, keep on going. That's what I say. Yeah.
That's what Joe. Joe was drawing until the day he died. He was literally in his in bed drawing. He didn't have to. He was just doing it. And I think first, a person has to be driven to work in this field. It's not an easy field to work in. To spend any amount of time in this business, you have to take a lot of you take a lot of hits. It's an up and down business.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're on the top, and sometimes you're on the bottom. A lot of times you're just floating along, and nobody's really paying attention. So you have to be doing it, I think, for yourself. If you're not really into this and loving the work, then I don't really see the point in it. And fortunately for me, I love doing this. Jen loves doing it too. That's cool. Just who we are. Fortunately, we understand that. So if one of us says, I got to go work, I got to go do this now, the other one's like, yeah, bye, have fun.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
So your current project you just finished with JM was Western. I think you told us a Western. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a horror Western.
yeah, yeah. There's sort of, I was wondering about like artist styles. I think we can look at people's work and say, "Oh, that's so and so because of this and this and this." When I always think of your work, always because it's got shadows. I don't know. Something about your shadows, you can kind of like. And how would you sort of say people could tell your work? To me, it's just if that question even makes sense. I don't know.
I mean, that's a legitimate take on it, because one of my interests about the finish of artwork is the interplay of light and shadow, and that comes, I think, from my influences on artwork and my influences in movies. I'm a big horror movie and film noir fan, and so that influence of light and shadow comes from what I like to see in filmmaking. And there are times, each project that I work on, I try and set up certain kinds of visuals. Like you'll see when you see Wisdom, or if you've seen some of the pages that I posted, some of them are that what we, for lack of a better term, traditional Mandrake stuff, where you see a lot of that kind of light and shadow. But you'll also see pages where there is it's just an illustration style, where there's no solid blacks at all. It's just more traditional illustration with total line work. So I'm bouncing back and forth between a couple of different drawing styles within the project, which was very interesting for me.
Is that to delineate between the horror part and the normal day part kind of thing? Is that what it is?
It has more to do with separating out what we'll call the current period of time versus the backstory, by separating out the drawing style.
Yeah, that's cool.
Jan was nice enough to decide she was looking at the artwork and she said, I think I should color this because I know exactly what to do with this. And I was like, okay, you do that. That sounds good to me. So
yeah, I saw that Jan was doing the coloring work on Wisdom.
Yeah,
that's good. I need to get that. I need to get that when it comes out. Someone was asking about page rates. I take it it's gone up from the $8 of backgrounds you were getting.
Well, it has, although realistically, page rates in comics flattened out pretty dramatically around the turn of the century, and haven't done that much ever since. Page rates were going up nicely in general, and then to some extent, depending on the company that you're talking about, some of them even dropped. So comics as a way to make a living, we're doing okay. I'm not complaining, but it certainly hasn't kept up with the cost of living.
Yeah, I get you. Well, what about the, say, for example, Wisdom that you've just done? Do you get paid like a flat rate, or do you get any kind of like any of your properties? You get like, I don't know, extra money down the line for them or something like that? If they get reprinted.
This is a creator-owned project, so I'm in with the team. We're all part of the creator-owned situation here.
Right. Yeah, he's taken equity. He's taken equity in the project.
Cool.
I'm in it for exposure.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, as a young upcoming artist like yourself, needs all that exposure.
I need people to see my work so I can get some more work.
Yeah, I was going to ask about when you were talking about Joe telling you you'll get this in 5 years' time. Are you still learning now? Are you still going to, like, even at this stage?
Always. There's only two ways to go when you're an artist. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. So there's no such thing as staying level. And I would never discuss any particular artist in this respect, but I will say that we've all seen artists who seem to artistically flatline and then sort of just, their work deteriorates. And that happens when you sort of feel like, well, I'm good enough. What I'm doing is fine. And then you don't experiment, you don't take chances. Your level of interest deteriorates, and then you probably should retire because you're not interested anymore. You should probably stop doing what you're doing. So I'm always trying to find ways to get better. And again, I've got lots of artists around me, so we can bounce things off each other and keep interested.
Is there any project that you'd love to do, like a fantasy project, something that you really always wanted to work on, like a character or a story?
That comes up a lot. People will ask me, like, are there any characters at Marvel or DC that I haven't done that I'd like to do? And you were mentioning Judge Dredd. So Judge Dredd is like one that would be fun to do a Judge Dredd story.
Yeah.
And, I've been in the last couple of weeks, I've been trying to clean up my studio. It's a huge mess because I just did a bunch of jobs, and you're working on jobs and you're like throwing stuff everywhere. And then it's like, oh my God, what kind of a pigsty am I living in here? And you start finding things. And I was thinking the other day, well, it'd be great to do a spirit story. And then I realized that I found a copy. Yeah, I did a spirit story, and I completely way back in the early 2000s, and John and I had done a spirit story. But I guess if I had to say one character that I've never drawn that I would have liked to, that I'd like to, I mean, who knows, maybe I'll get a chance yet, would be Doctor Strange. I think that would be fun.
I'm sitting here thinking, if you're cleaning up around your studio and things, if you gather up a trash bag of like roughs and doodles and things like that, you can just like put my address on that. I will hang your scraps on my wall.
I get in trouble with Jan because sometimes I'll just find a bunch of roughs and things, and I'm like, I can't keep everything. I'll try to throw it away, and she's like, you can't throw that away, and she'll take it from me.
Keep it here. Yeah, you can keep it here. There are people that love that stuff. Just
definitely
work. So put those up for sale on things, or like I said, if you got a trash bag to get rid of, I give you my address because I'll find stuff to do with it. I'll distribute it around the world.
I'll send you a pile of my trash.
I'll take it as long as it's writing trash. And
there'll always be people who treasure your trash. I'm sure if it's like artwork related. Like I've got my awesome sketch here. Did you have did you give a sketch out to everybody who bought the creeps or something? Did you have like a big stack of them? I
wish I could remember. I don't know.
I didn't ask for it. Nothing. I was like, when it came, I was like, oh wow, awesome. They're all signed and. I reckon you sent my package to the wrong person. That's probably what happened.
Well, it's signed.
You were sending that to that day.
Cool.
I got someone else's.
Try to keep my buyers happy, so I can't remember what I was doing at that point. That's a while ago.
On the subject of Kubert and comic book history and things like that, how good does it feel to be attached? The names you rattled off that were your original teachers and things. I mean, there's a straight line from them back to the creation of American comic books. That's insanely cool to me just to hear about. How cool is it that you're 2 degrees removed from the beginnings?
Yes, that is something to think about for me. It is great to have known those guys who are really right there, and a guy like Tex Blaisdell, who used to work for Alex Raymond, I got to spend a lot of time with him, and Erwin Hazen, who, he was one of the OGs. He was there,
Yeah.
They were great guys to know and to spend some time hanging out with and get to know what their experiences were. And I try to make sure that I spend some time talking to my students about the same kinds of things. My experiences, the way I broke into the field, are completely different than what people are experiencing now. It's not the same world at all.
Yeah.
Being able to walk into the DC and Marvel offices, as we did in the late 70s, hang out, ask for work and things, everything changed, first from 9/11, because as soon as that happened, New York shut down and there was no more walking into an office, without armed guards everywhere. And then, of course, now the publishing field is spread out everywhere. Marvel's in New York and DC is in California, and they don't even, for the most part, they don't want you in the office. As a matter of fact, DC doesn't have offices per se anymore anyway. They're basically renting space, and the editors are everywhere. They're all across the U.S. and so it's a completely different world. You have to get noticed in a different way. But a lot of the same rules still apply about being determined and getting your work noticed by producing a lot of good work. But yeah, a lot of what I did has changed. That's 40 plus years ago now.
So has anybody ever? Have we ever? Is there any chance we're going to get a Spectre movie?
You know that I know on occasion people have talked about that, but I've never heard any really serious talk about it.
That would be great.
Chances are I'm not going to get much out of that.
No,
we didn't create the Spectre. If they use some of the secondary characters that we created, we might see something out of that.
Yeah. Do you get like really attached to the characters when you're writing them, and to like maybe to the point where the writer writes something for the character, and you're like, no, don't do that to him? Does that ever you had anything like that, or is it literally you're just cold and you just do what you're told? Or is there any times emotions have crept in?
I feel attached to several characters, unfortunately, because I'm a big fan of Swamp Thing, and I've one of the very first jobs that I ever did for DC was a Swamp Thing job. Jen and I did it together. That was 81 or 82.
Okay.
And then I had a run of Swamp Things in the early 80s. Alfredo Alcala inked a bunch of those, and Kim DeMulder inked some of them. And then just recently I did several short stories with Swamp Thing, and he appeared in a lot of the books that I did. So I'm a big Swamp Thing fan. But unfortunately, as a character that appears in movies and TV shows, he hasn't fared that well,
No.
His appearances are like, wow.
I remember one of my favorite taglines, the first Swamp Thing movie, which was truly awful. He's got a grudge because they turned him to sludge.
And that movie transcends awful to the point where I can pretty much watch it because it's bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those that's so bad it's almost good.
Yeah.
On the other hand, when I first got on Batman, so we're talking about 1985, and Doug mentioned I became the Batman team for about 12 issues. I mean, that was for me that was like the high point, at that time.
Because you were quite young then, weren't you? You were in your 20s, 30s, early 30s?
So in 1985, so I was like 29, 30, something like that. Yeah, I was flying high. That was great. But that first issue was we created the Black Mask, right? First issue out of the gate. It's like create the Black Mask. That was awesome. I was all fired up to do the Joker. Doug had this idea, hey, let's create a new character. It's like, all right, that sounds cool. We'll do that. And am I creating a throwaway character, or am I creating an iconic Batman villain that's going to last forever? Well, that's what happened. We created an iconic Batman villain that has lasted forever. And the Black Mask has had many versions. He's been in video games, and he's been in animation, he's been in movies. And each one has been completely different. And I've enjoyed every version of the Black Mask that I've seen. And it's like, this is great. I created him, and he's got this life of his own. He's all grown up, and he's doing his own thing. It's really
He ended up being a lot more evil and sadistic than you first wrote him, because later on he kidnaps Catwoman's sister and her husband and gouges out her husband's eyes and makes Catwoman's sister eat them.
He certainly has.
That's one of the sickest things in a comic book, like a mainstream comic book that I think I've seen.
He's become quite an interesting character as time has gone by.
Yeah. Well, I've got a question from one of our watchers at the moment, talking about your relation to Incas. How do you get on? How do you feel about their treatment of your?
Well, that's actually a great question, Alfredo Alcala. I mean, he's an inking god. Nobody can lay more ink down on an illustration and still make it work than Alfredo. He's a genius. And when I was working on the Swamp Thing, Alfredo was the inker on that particular run, and I'm in awe of what Alfredo can do. That being said, I was doing issues of the Swamp Thing. I was not the regular penciler at the time, but getting back to what I was talking about Joe Kubert, Joe always told me, ink your own stuff. And I always wanted to ink my own stuff because I love inking. To me, that's the fun part of the job. All the heavy lifting is figuring out the storytelling, doing the penciling, and it's inking time. It's like, oh yeah, this is what I'm here for. So I was in Karen Berger's office turning in an issue of the Swamp Thing, and I knew going in what the answer was going to be, or what the question was going to be. She offered me the book on a regular basis, but I knew Alfredo was going to be the inker. But I had to say it. I said, look, I would love to do this, but I want to ink my own stuff. And Karen said, no, Alfredo is the look of the book. And she was absolutely right. So I said, no, I don't want to do this if I'm just a penciler, because I want to be my own guy, you know, I want to ink my own stuff. So I turned down the Swamp Thing, which I couldn't believe I was doing. In the back of my head, there's a guy going, you're an idiot, you know? And I walked out of the room, and Dan Rasberg grabbed me by the arm, and he dragged me into Denny O'Neill's room, and he said, hey, how about if you and John Ostrander do Firestorm? And so I lucked into the job that launched us into doing all that other work together. So that was a good day for me.
Awesome.
So in a roundabout way, I'm sort of trying to answer this question, which is, I can really appreciate a great inking job, but I do prefer to do my own stuff.
Right.
And Alfredo, there was no one better than Alfredo. I look at his stuff all the time and just, like I say, he's a genius. Was a genius.
I'm always saying that I'm useless when it comes to art. Yeah, I'm even looking at the art, I can't really tell who does what half the time. What is the job of an inker? How can an inker do their stuff badly or well? Can you explain to the layman, particularly me, what makes a good inker, what makes a bad inker?
That is a complicated question. That's not easy to answer. So you can have a great inker and a great penciler, and they can come together and produce a less interesting piece of artwork than what you started off with, because some people just don't mesh, you know. Some inkers will bury a penciler, and some people's energy combines to make genius work. Gene Colan and Tom Palmer combined to make genius work.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other times you'll get two people that are geniuses, but they just don't combine. So, you know, on one hand, it's almost impossible to intellectualize why this happens or doesn't happen. There are some inkers, and Dick Giordano to me is the epitome of this. There are some inkers who feel that their sole job is to take the penciler's work and turn it into inks without changing anything. I learned early on from Dick how to be like that kind of quiet inker, this sort of really nice, clean line that just accentuates what the penciler did. And you know, this was back when Dick was, I think, editor-in-chief at DC. This was back in the early 80s. And he was always training people, because he had a big studio, and he was teaching people how to ink. And Dick had a system of how to ink. You do this, and that's how you get an ink job done. And his system was clean. Nobody could explain inking as quickly and as straightforward as Dick Giordano. He was the best about that. But his style, I hate to use the word simplistic, because that's incorrect. It was organized and clean and precise. And that's as opposed to a guy like Alfredo, who will take somebody's straightforward artwork and I'm going to use the word bury it, which is an unfortunate term, but he's an illustrator. He's going to take that artwork and he's going to do what he does and turn it into this glorious piece of illustration. So when you're picking a penciler and an inker, you have to decide where you want to land on it. Are you going to take these pencils and get an inker who's going to reproduce the look of those pencils exactly? Or are you going to try to find an inker who turns them into something else very different? And within those two things, there's a world of combinations. Some of them work, some of them don't. Finding an editor who understands that process and finding those right combinations. Some editors love that. And I've had editors not want to hire me just because I fight that process. You know, I want to do my own stuff. And I've had guys say, well, I like to be the one who decides who's going to ink and who's going to pencil. That's fine. Don't hire me. I don't care. But now, you know, that doesn't happen anymore, because people know, I'm a package deal. I'm going to do the whole thing.
Cool.
So
awesome. Hey,
I'm
Greg,
glad I asked that question.
Is it cheaper? So if I'm the finance guy, is it cheaper to get somebody to do both rather than to hire two separate people?
It depends on the people's rates, so I think it has happened, I suppose, that you can hire a cheap penciler and then put an expensive inker on them. It seems like a weird process. I know that they used to do that years ago at DC or Marvel, where you get somebody to do layouts and then get somebody a little more high tone to finish it off and make it look better. But
cool. Are they normally like comparable in like pay rates, or is it like a penciler get paid more than inkers normally, or
the pencil rate is generally higher than the ink rate, unless the penciler is just doing layouts and the inker is doing finishes. So there are times when the breakdown is slightly different. So the process is a little bit different there. The penciler is doing less of the actual work. That means the inker is going to have to go in and actually do a little bit of drawing on top of it. So the rates change accordingly.
Interesting. Has there been any inkers that you've hated, particularly in your own work?
Quit asking him those questions.
Well, if that had happened, I wouldn't name names. I'm not.
Yeah, true.
Hey, Graham, can I get you to enlarge me real quick? I want to call back on something he said a minute ago, and I just ironies. This will just give you a general idea. Here I've taken my young cousin. This is August 27th, 2001. I showed up to the doors of Marvel Comics when I went to New York for a poetry award thing. And I showed up at the door and they buzzed me in and took me around the office and let me sit in the editor's chair.
Yeah, you couldn't do that now.
A week and a half before the towers got hit. And when you'd said, it all changed that day, days beforehand, I got the grand tour. And, these aren't posters. That's original art hanging on the walls. Those are original Jescos. That's the mask that's on the cover of like FF265. Those amazing things like that. And I could just walk up and I could just be like, puppy, puppy, puppy. Hold on. Yeah,
we'll go back to Tom. You can silence your mic for a bit. Talking about the changes, like what have been the best and the worst changes in the industry in your career? Is that something you can think about?
Let's see. As more of an old school guy, there's a lot of things that I liked about the way things were. This is going to sound awful.
No.
I'm going to get my old man on now.
Get off my lawn.
Because again, I've got these pages sitting here from Kim. I like old pages with the lettering on them. So hang on, I'm going to get up. I'm going to disappear just for a second here. But I'll keep talking.
Spectre statue. I see a Spectre statue in the background. Quite a lot of skulls in the background there as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of a skull guy here.
they're not the ones you use for the Spectre #1 cover, are they? You just copied all those. You just use this for.
So even though here's a double page spread from Wisdom. Put that up there. So you can have the artwork, and artwork is beautiful to look at, and I love having the artwork, but well placed, well designed lettering on top of the artwork to me is an addition to the artwork. It should all work together.
Yeah.
So first, there's a lot of positives that came from having computers and scanners, because we can scan our own artwork. We can control the quality of the scans. Thank you to John, who just posted that's a masterpiece. I appreciate that. But at the same time, when it became possible for all of us to have Photoshop on our computers and scanners right here, that meant that suddenly the artists became our own production crew. So a lot of the work that was formerly done at the offices, production work, now we do that. So you don't get paid more for that. We just have to do it. So now we turn in fully finished files So it's a little bit of extra work on our side. The plus side of that, however, is that now I have finished files of all the work that I do saved on the computer. I do not have that for years worth of work that I did before. I have the original art. So whenever I want to sell something or I'm concerned about the work and want to do something with it, I've got years worth of work that have time that I'm going to have to do. So that's a mixed blessing right there. The business, it used to be just a couple of companies, right? You had Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, and a few others. Now there's a ton of companies, and you can self-publish. There's again, because of the internet and the ability to self-publish, there's a million places to go with stuff, but it's harder to develop a larger audience. And when you self-publish, like when we just did the Spellbound Kickstarter, you are screaming into the wind to get attention because everybody wants that attention. So that's also a kind of a mixed blessing.
Yeah, I don't think you were screaming into the wind. I think you got funded on day one.
Yeah, we did okay, but I mean, I think it's fair to say that we probably should do okay, considering that we had a lot of talent there and a lot of work went into that one.
Yeah.
But it's hard to get noticed in a business now where there's so much information going on all at the same time. Also, social media. I mean, I think some people like to do social media. I am not one of those people. I do it when I have to, but I initially I was like, okay, I can do this, and I dove in hard, and I burned myself out, and now I'm having trouble getting back into it, and I'm having trouble finding the balance, basically. How much to do without like killing myself on it, and then hating the world because I've been on it too much.
Yeah, definitely got to get a balance with like everything in life, really.
Sorry about the dog. I had to give that dog attention, so no part of me not giving her attention.
Have you ever done any writing or thought?
I have, yeah, absolutely. I did a I did a Hulk miniseries one time that absolutely nobody knows about.
Okay.
Oh.
What was that?
I did recently. I did an anthology again that nobody knows about, and I'm writing. I've always got writers that I want to work with and want to work with me, and so I've sort of held back doing a lot of writing. Now in the last couple of years, I've got a lot of stories on hand. It's like, I should do this, and it's like, well, I better start doing these now because I'm going to run out of time pretty soon. Maybe not pretty soon. I'll give myself a couple of years. So I've got a graphic novel that's almost finished. It was like, I'm just going to write and draw this, and then I'm sure I'll find a publisher for it. So it's almost finished. I would have finished it last year, except that Wisdom came up, and I wanted to get that done. And then this thing with Steve Niles came up, and I finished that. So within the next year or two, I'll have a couple of graphic novels done that I wrote through.
Awesome. Are we going to be able to see that whole miniseries? I'm just chomping at the bit to see that.
That whole miniseries came out 20 years ago.
Oh, I thought you said that.
What was it called so we can find it?
Nobody. It was called The Hulk Unchained.
Okay, I thought you were talking about something different.
No, it's a writer thing you've done in the past. Yeah.
So, I've seen that one. I thought, oh my God, is there one I've yet seen?
Was the writing bit something you wanted to do, or something you always wanted to do? Or they say to you, "Would you like to write something?" How did that come about?
So it's always been something that I enjoy doing, but I'm a slow writer. For number one, I'm relatively slow. Number two, it's always been on the back burner because I'm not good at turning down projects. I mean, I'm always doing stuff, and this is on me that I've got these projects. I probably have, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 graphic novels that are just sitting there waiting for me to do. But with your own stuff, it's always like, well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that.
Yeah.
So that's something I should have just taken care of before. I just didn't get around to. But now I'm finally starting to turn that bucket and make it happen.
What
Tom, my understanding is that your wife has got a Star Wars character named after
That's
her.
right. I saw that in the weekly page.
So I want to know if there's a Star Wars character hidden in the Star Wars universe that's you.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So certainly everybody in this house is modeled for a Star Wars character at one time or another. We've all been doing this or that, you know.
Awesome. When you was a kid, like first doing your little drawings and like copying the superheroes and all that, did you ever come up with your own superhero character? You thought one day I'm going to make a comic book of this. Is that anything that you ever had in you still to be done?
You know, before when I was in high school, I had a friend, and we used to put together fanzines for ourselves, and we had a character named Icarus, basically exactly what it sounds like, you know, a flying character.
Right.
And we printed a couple issues of that up. My dad used to have an advertising agency, so he wrote it, I drew it. I used to go after hours to Dad's agency and print it. I mean, I did the whole thing, you know, from the camera work to the printing of the book. And yeah, we used to do that. Matter of fact, my friend who wrote it, David Kellogg, actually became a writer. And one of the first books I did for DC, I don't know if you guys remember this or not. It was called New Talent Showcase. Do you remember New Talent?
Yeah, I've got a few of them. Yeah.
So I did a story in there called Sky Dogs, and he actually wrote that story. So the guy that I was writing with when we were just kids, we actually did a little bit of work together professionally before he decided freelancing was not for him and moved on to other things.
Cool.
He's still my best friend, and we still see each other all the time.
Awesome. Major question here. Are there any of those fanzines still left in your stacks hidden back around there?
They're not here. They're in my mom's attic in Ohio.
Well, if you're looking to get rid of any of those original fanzines, things like that,
I was going to say, talking of like original characters, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, there's ever been a Mandrake Man character. I think a Mandrake Man would be an awesome superhero or supervillain.
You know, at one time I was curious about getting access to Mandrake the Magician. I thought that would be fun to do. And I was actually in contact with, you know, there's a difference between the comic strip Mandrake the Magician and the actual Mandrake the Magician, who was, you know, a real magician, a real stage magician.
Oh.
And there was an understanding between Lee, I think it was Lee Falk, who wrote Mandrake the Magician, who wrote and drew it, and the real stage magician. They just kind of live and let live between the two of them. Mm-hmm. But the stage magician's granddaughter got in touch with me a couple of years ago to find out if somehow we were related. Of course, we're not, because as I told you, my grandfather just ended up with that name. She's a writer who lives in New York. But yeah, I was always curious if there was a way to make that happen, but I could never make any inroads with the people who own the rights to that. So
that's a shame.
Is King Features on that or something?
I think Dynamite was doing some.
I'm fairly sure it's Dynamite. Yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah, they managed to get the rights to licensing for everything, but Dynamite the low page rates are not something I want to deal with.
Okay.
That's a shame.
I'm sure if you were drawing sexy vampires, your page rate would go up with Dynamite.
Well, you know, I did quite a few covers for them, actually, and that was fun. You know, I did a bunch of covers for them, for just a variety of books, everything from like Kiss to Red Sonja and things, and it was, I had a really good time doing that.
Yeah.
Have you ever drawn Vampirella?
See, sometimes I have to stop and think. I start to forget what I have and haven't done. I don't think so, but I might have. So don't
quote you on it.
Could be a cover in there that I've forgotten about.
Awesome. So you tell us again about your projects that are coming out. You got various graphic novels and stuff you can't talk about at the moment. But
that's the problem. That right now, the two things that I'm working on, obviously outside of Wisdom, are I'm working on a big 120-page graphic novel. Unfortunately, I can't really tell you what it is, so I've got to let that ride. As with the thing with Steve Niles, which is going to be announced, I think, at the beginning of this coming year. So I've got to let those sort of lie for the moment.
Cool. Maybe in 6 months when you've got these all out, you can come back and tell us all about them.
Absolutely.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to lay back and not hoard all the questions, but
well, you've not asked anything yet.
I want to pick your brain so bad.
Ask a question. Ask a question.
No, just on so many things. I mean, just literally on so many things. Just we could go year by year by year and talk about history and things like that. And
Kyle,
like
ask
I said,
a question.
bring in the wife, bring in the missus, and talk about that. No, I'm saying I'm not going to ask a bunch of questions.
We want you to ask a question, please. Please ask a question, Kyle.
I don't know. I don't want to just start picking his brain right now. We're an hour into this. I don't want to torture him. So,
what do you do?
Here, and it's not even about comics. You've transplanted basically from the Midwest, even though it was Northern Ohio, to the East Coast. Are you more comfortable there, or do you just kind of keep the Midwestern in you, or are you glad to put the Midwestern behind you?
Well, you can't take the Midwestern out of the boy,
Yeah.
I'm still, with that in mind, I spent the first 20 some years of my life in northeastern Ohio. I'm still a Browns fan. I brought that with me, and my family still lives there. But I think when you think about living on the East Coast, I live in New Jersey. But this part of New Jersey is not what I think a lot of people perceive New Jersey as. This is a really nice area. We've got a beautiful farm market near us. There's woodland trails around here. This is a really nice semi-mountainous area. I don't know if you've been around. So Dover is the town that the school is in, and we're one town over. But it's not the kind of like Newark or Patterson kind of area that you may be thinking about, because a lot of New Jersey is actually just a really nice countrified area.
It's the Garden State, so
and people still sort of make fun of that, but parts of it's very much true.
Quite literal. Speaking of Cleveland and from off the streets of Cleveland, let's talk Harvey Pekar. Are you a Pekar fan?
I guess I'm going to say in general no, but I can respect what he did.
Yeah, because I mean he was a curmudgeon before anybody was a curmudgeon, and he never let go of that. So, but yeah, when my old stepdad, an old World War II vet, who was an artist out of Cleveland, who ended up teaching in manufacturing, who hated comic books when you were telling those stories. Growing up with those guys that just hated the idea of comic book art. I'm sitting here reminiscing about my childhood. And a stepdad from Cleveland that hated comic books, but me just loving them. He thought Superman was the dumbest thing in the world. Yet he was an artist, and it boggled my mind because it's like, but this is that. I
as I said, with the school that I started out at, people, they just had a terrible attitude about comics. And realistically, in the late 70s, even in the early 80s, when I started in this business, it was not cool to be in comics. It wasn't cool to be a nerd or any of that kind of stuff. And it's completely changed. I saw a question flash by there. I didn't catch it.
Yeah, we'll come back in a second.
Okay. But things have completely changed. Now it's more than okay to be a comic book artist now, but it certainly wasn't when I started out.
Going back to the 70s and 80s, I can tell you right now, anytime I saw your name in a comic book, I immediately thought you were amazingly cool. Well, I'm kicking around in the Marine Corps, and I'm thinking, these guys are so damn cool.
There's a much more.
So, Tom, the question you missed is, are there any artists outside of comics who influenced you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just talking to, I'm always trying to talk to the students about, looking for influences outside comics because it's so important. And the Brandywine School of Artists are one that really has had a big influence on me. I'm talking about Howard Pyle and N.C. Wyeth and those artists. I was just trying to get one of my students interested in Edward Gorey, the cartoonist, not a comic book artist at all, but an illustrator who's had a big influence on me. So while the Brandywine School artists are considered to be, in some respects, illustration artists, they're still just glorious painters. And there's a museum dedicated to their work that's not too far from here in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And we make it a point to get down there every couple of years and just recharge our batteries looking at their paintings.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's one of the favorite books I own. I own a 1936 Jules Verne Mysterious Island with all new Wyeth.
The NC Wyeth. Yeah.
It's amazing.
They have all the other Wyeths are represented in the museum there, and Jamie, and it just, to me, that's one of the most outstanding families of artists in the U.S.
I'll have to look into them. I've never heard of them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go in. I'm going to have to go back them up now.
Yeah, feeling like a right Philistine. Here I am. What about your and Jan's? Like, do you ever have any loggerheads at all about art, about how art should be done? Is there any different opinions that you have to do with art that ever sort of clash with each other, or is it always plain sailing?
In terms of our feelings about other artists, or
or just about how you go about your art, maybe, or or what.
Well, Jan and I have very different approaches to our artwork, but that's to be expected. We have a different pace as to how we approach our artwork. We have different feelings about how much noise we want in the background. I tend to work at a slightly faster. I'm much quicker about getting work done up front. She's a much better artist in terms of, this is just my opinion, she can do likenesses much better than I can. So if it's a question of doing likenesses and things, I'm usually like, can you help me out with this? You just have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and we all have them. There's no point in worrying about it. It's great to recognize what your strengths and weaknesses are, and it's fine. We're not all going to be good at.
Do you share a studio, or do you have separate studios?
We have separate studios.
Yeah,
I'm upstairs and she's downstairs.
Okay.
So when we're working on the same project, which we were doing one. This was last year or 2 years ago. It was what the heck was the name of this thing? It was based on a TV show, and we picked it up because we thought it would be fun, from DC. Werewolf Joe, I think. I think that's what it was called. Anyway, just this goofy comedy thing about this werewolf character, and some of it was likenesses and some of it wasn't, and we're working simultaneously on the pages, and we just go running downstairs. We'd lay them all out in the hallway. You do this, I'll do this. You do this, and I'll do that. We grab the pages, separate, work on them, come back down, spread the pages out again. And you just, it's been a long time. We trust each other. We know what we're doing.
So there's just a little comment, not a question. So now you're paid less, but you're cooler when at parties. Which is that good? Is that better? Is it better to be cool, or is it better to be richer?
Well, I guess when I need money, I just sell original artwork now, right?
Yeah. Is there anything
or bags of trash?
Yeah. Is there anything that you would pinpoint as being a weakness in your art, maybe historically, not now, and if you get to work on more than other things to get right?
Well, I could always get better at anybody. I think I'm not going to speak
No.
Well, I shouldn't speak for everybody. You can always get better at anatomy. You can always get better. You'll screw up a hand. I could always slow down, and you can always get better at storytelling. Storytelling is a deep well you can never hit the bottom at. So there's always something to be learned there. And you pick up somebody else's work and you go, oh, look at that. I got to remember that trick. You always have to be working at improving your line. If you're not working at improving your line and techniques, again, you're not working at getting better, you're getting worse. So no matter what you're doing, you constantly have to be working at improving your techniques, because there's no staying in one place. And realistically, you have to deal with the fact that as your body gets older, you have to fight things like, I'm wearing trifocals right now, you've got the problem with your eyes and things, and it has to be dealt with.
I say, if I was able to draw anything that you could draw, I'd be totally amazed. But do you get blasé about your own work, where you don't look at it and go, that's normal work? Or is there like a moment where you draw something and go, bloody hell, I did a good job there?
Once in a while you draw something and you go, oh, that looks great. How did I do that? Awesome. And you come into the studio and you're like, I can't draw a goddamn thing. Those days are fewer and far between, realistically, because you are able to reach a point, and this happened a long time ago. It's not like it just happened yesterday, where you know that your worst day is still going to be a professional day. On my worst day, I can produce professional quality work, but on a really good day, I can do something that I can look at it and be really proud of. And that's a good day. You get it done, and it comes out just right the first time. You're like, all right, it's Miller time. I can close up shop.
That's the next question. Go on, Aaron.
You can still have a bad day where you're just like, I don't know what the hell's going on. But we're not machines,
Yeah.
Going back to Cleveland and going back to history, since Cleveland, between rock and roll and comic book history and Superman, you probably went to an adjacent high school to Siegel and Schuster, if not the same one. Those two guys, did you ever want to meet them? Did you get the chance to meet them? Did you get a chance to meet all the guys you wanted? I mean, since you got in with Kubert and them, is there an unfinished one? Did you not get to rub shoulders with one of them, or did you want to, or did you get a chance to talk to them?
Well, it's always great to meet the people whose work you admired, and it seems like recently we've lost a lot of the creators that you grow up really respecting. We lost Neil Adams relatively recently.
Yeah.
And it was tough to lose Joe in 2012. And my dad died a week after Joe died. That was a bad year.
Oh God, yeah.
But yeah, and at a convention, you always want to go up and say hi to the older creators, because you never know, when they're going to disappear. It was great to meet Tom Palmer and tell him how much I loved his work. It's even better when you go up to say hi to somebody like that and they go, oh yeah, I know your work and I really like it. Then you're like, ooh, Tom Palmer.
Yeah, that's better than who are you?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because I got to tell you, I mean, this feels great to be able to sit here face to face, because I'm not a convention goer, but to sit here face to face and go, dude, you're awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your talents with us. And that smile that was on his face when he showed up the original art we did.
Yeah.
You bring out the kid in all of us, man. And we all there are just tens of thousands of us out there who are grateful for you every day. And I love getting a chance to tell that to guys whose names were on the printed page, where I was just, I'm 56. I'm back to being a 13-year-old kid going, man, dude, how cool. Your name's in this comic book. You did this art. How cool. You're awesome.
I've got to say, you're definitely one of my favorite artists. I've got to say that as well. You're definitely one of the ones I've always, like, every time I see your work, it's like, oh, Tom Mandrake did this one. I must be inspired. I must read it, But that's enough of me. Right. I don't like to read. I don't like to
I have to tell you, I have never known this guy be nice to anybody ever before.
But you were number one on his list. That's why I reached out to you.
Well,
and
I didn't think you gave, though. I didn't think it's possible.
I hope you hear that enough. I do. I genuinely hope you hear enough that, damn, dude, that's amazing. I mean, it is amazing. And you are genuinely appreciated for having your talents and sharing them. That you got paid to brighten people's lives, and you damn sure have. And I hope you hear that enough to keep it.
First, I really appreciate the fact that you guys had me on here, and I do appreciate that everything that you guys are saying. But you know, also from my end, and I think from the creators' end, this is a great job. At its core, it's just an awesome opportunity to do something that you love doing and have other people that are right there to appreciate it. And one of the great things about comics, I think, is the interaction between the creators and the fans. And I don't know that there's a lot of art forms where maybe outside of music, where you also can have that interaction, where we can have this kind of thing. It gets to be too big, I think, with movie making and things like that. But this it's a wonderful business in that respect. That that I can work with kids who want to be in it, and I can talk to guys like you who are really as excited about it as I am. So I really appreciate you having me on here.
And then there's another layer, cool, that you are teaching another generation of kids. That how many classes have you taught? How many more generations are influenced by? We lost Joe a decade ago, and yet his line still just keeps going straight through you, through these people, through your family. How cool.
I want to know who your favorite student was as well.
Yeah.
Who was the best? Who should we be looking out for?
Get him in big trouble for that one.
Let me rephrase that question so you can answer it. Have any of your students ever contacted you after they've graduated and asked you to work with them?
Well, I mean, Anthony, like I say, he was in Sean's class, and now he's running the school.
So, you said, yeah.
When first, after he graduated, Anthony was an editor at DC. I worked for him there. He was an editor at Dynamite. I worked for him there. Now he's he's running the Kubert School. So, I mean, he's a prime example of how the school has had a tremendous influence in the business. And you could go to almost any comic convention. If you said, if you've been to the Kubert School, raise your hand, I think half the creators would be raising their hands at this point.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good Lord.
Oh,
if you ask me to ask another question, I'm gonna open another can of worms and go, hey, you got another hour and a half. And I don't want to do that to you, but I'm telling you, as long as you want to hang, we can keep coming at you with flattery and questions all day long. If you need a breather, we're hitting an hour and a half. I want to be nice to you, but I also want to say, hey, yell at your wife. Tell her to come in and say hi. Make us.
No.
But
Jen's chasing her deadline down right now in a cover.
Yeah, but it is up to you. I mean, honestly, if you want to sit and hang out with us a little while longer,
well, let's do another.
You need to go.
Let's do another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to have to break.
I was saying to the guys earlier on, whenever I saw the name Jan Duursema, I imagined a big, tough Swedish guy for some reason. I didn't realize, just seeing that name on the paper, I was like Janus or like Jankowski or something like that. I didn't realize, So
my mom's name is Jan, so that's where
Well, you have got a question similar to what I was asking. You've got a favourite young artist who's working on a current series?
Favorite young artist,
or just one you like? That's we haven't got to use the word favourite because we don't want to.
I know it's always a difficult word.
Something you enjoy that's newer, something that's got your interest that's newer, or one of your students. Is one of your students out there doing something that's just wow?
Actually, I'm gonna plug my daughter's new project.
Awesome.
Yeah, go for it.
She's working. Let me see if once again, I'm gonna disappear from the screen for a second here.
Did you actually teach her when she was at the school as a student? So was that ever an awkward dynamic? Do your homework. I can't. The dog eat. We haven't got a dog. What are you talking about?
I mean, I've worked with both my kids right from when they were young, so it's not a problem. We all understand what's going on. I've been working with them since they were little kids, not just in artwork, but when they were very young, teaching them martial arts too, and so there's more interplay between comics and martial arts than you might think. She's been working on this.
Jeet Kune Do, maybe. I'm thinking. Jeet Kune Do, the martial arts.
No, for them it was Taekwondo.
Yeah. So what is it your daughter's doing there?
This is called Blood of the Taken.
Blood of the Taken.
And who's the publisher?
So she was self-publishing this before. Now she has a publisher, and that will be announced pretty soon too. So this is going to become a graphic novel.
Oh, cool. What is that, vampires or something like that?
Yep. So, of course, Sean's been working professionally for well over 10 years. She's colored a lot of my stuff. Everything from work for DC and Dynamite to the Captain Kronos Vampire Hunter project they did for Titan. And now for Blood of the Taken, she's writing, penciling, inking, lettering. She's doing the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So keep your eye open for that one.
Absolutely. Is there a link or anything we can put in here?
Yeah, we'll get some links off you later and put them all in the descriptions so people watching.
Yeah,
check them out.
I'll get you links for all this stuff.
Do your children's art styles similar to either of the parents? So they favour one side to the other, or take bits of?
I think when you see Sean's stuff, you'll see some influence from both directions. You might be inclined to say that her style may be more reminiscent of mine purely because she's working on this book is more horror stuff, and people tend to think, between Jan and I, when you think about horror stuff, you think probably more about me than Jan.
Yeah.
Because, when people think about Jan stuff, they think about Star Wars.
Yeah, I was never a Star Wars collector, so.
Now, odd question before we wrap up here, or odd request, if you will. So you can't talk about these things till the beginning of next year on these new projects you're working on?
Right.
Can we get you on to talk about them when you can talk about them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. I'm actually dying to talk about these projects because one of them, I'll talk about the project indirectly without talking about it. One of them I signed on to in 2018.
Oh.
Wow.
The publisher, I should say the editor, contacted me and he said, I've got this project, and I posted a drawing of this particular character just for the fun of it. And he's like, that's what we want. We want that look. And he contacted the licensor, and I got the project just based on this one sketch that I did. And I was all ready to go. And then they got a writer, and then that didn't work out. And then they asked me to write it, and that didn't work out. And then they got some other writers, and this whole process was going on. And I thought the project was dead, and I didn't hear from them. And then like a year went by, and then I got an email. It was like, okay, we're ready to go. And I'd forgotten all about it. I was like, what's ready? And so, it's like 3 years. So now finally, we're actually doing this project. And I'm like, oh, this is really exciting. Can we talk about it? No, you can't talk about it. It's like, so here we are.
Well, let me know when you can talk about it, and we will absolutely.
Yeah, if you want to come back, we'll certainly have you anytime.
Yeah.
Open invitation. If your daughter wants to come back and talk about her work, she has an open invitation. You have the point of contacts. We would be happy to hype you guys around the world.
Honored. Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, great.
to hype you guys around the world.
I like what Kyle was saying. That you get a loose camera and show us everything around the room. That would be awesome. Like just grab things off the shelf and say, "Look at this." And
trust me, if there's a little clutter on the floor, nobody will notice because
pulp magazines.
It's like a bomb went off in here. It's getting better.
Here's what I want to ask. That's a question I remembered earlier on. I love a bit of H.P. Lovecraft and Cthulhu and that. Have you ever done anything Lovecraftian art-wise?
Okay, now I have to think about this for a minute. So, any Lovecraft stuff? Not really. We touched on some Lovecraft stuff in Superman and Batman versus Vampires and Werewolves. Sort of intentionally creating some characters in there that looked Lovecraftian, but not directly doing any Lovecraft. That would be fun to do, though.
Yeah. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
What is your taste in horror? You say you got a Frankenstein shirt on. You say you love the old horrors. What is your sort of horror taste? Do you like gory? You like gory stuff, or you prefer the dark and the shadows and the gothic?
You mean in terms of what I like to watch or what I like to do?
Watch. Yeah, watch. Do either. All.
I love the old stuff. The Universal, Hammer, that kind of stuff. Those are my go-tos. I'll still pick up an episode of the X-Files now and then. There's been some really interesting newer horror. Thank God. I think we're back in an age now where we're seeing some great new horror movies like Nope. That was a great horror movie, and Jordan Peele is a tremendous horror director. So we're seeing some good stuff. I feel like there's a lot of bad horror being done right now. I'm not a fan of the torture porn movies that they're making. That's like, whatever. It's
a bit much.
So that's not a direction that I find very interesting. In terms of what I like to do, I'm interested in doing any kind of horror. We're doing this Western horror thing that I'm doing with JM. That's great. I like period stuff. Doing that Captain Kronos thing was wonderful. That was great. Crossover superhero horror stuff is always fun to do. I did that weird Secret Squirrel thing with JM. That was in a way a horror story because they'd been shrunk and there was all kinds of weird elements to that story.
Was that DC Hanna-Barbera crossover? Was that? Is that what you're talking about, Secret Squirrel?
Which one?
Was it when you said the Secret Squirrel? That wasn't when DC and Hanna-Barbera were like crossing over.
Yeah, that was that weird crossover stuff.
I haven't got that. I need to check that one. I need to check that one out.
And I usually do an anthology story every year with Sandy King for their for John Carpenter's anthology horror stories, and I never know what that's going to be.
Okay.
So the last one I did, which was which issue was that? Let's see. Was that number 8? Or was this one the year before? The most recent one, that's in this issue, Halloween Nights. So the story I did in this one, my son Jack colored my story in this one. So I don't know if you guys ever pick up these Tales for Halloween Night, but these are really good horror anthologies.
I've never heard of them. What, they're stories or they comic book anthologies?
It's comic books.
I've never heard of it.
Really? Oh, you should definitely pick these up. I think in this issue I did a story, and like I say, Jack colored this issue. Let's see. There's a couple pages from our story here. So if you haven't been picking these up, I recommend picking up a few now for Halloween Night.
You just sold a couple copies of those for sure.
I'm searching it out now. It sounds good.
Yeah. Have you watched the Werewolf by Night movie?
That was so much fun. I really liked that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I thought it was good.
Oh my goodness!
I'm trying to find.
Oh,
I can't see it on my comic shop.
Don't want to wrap this up, but I want to let you go. But man, the gratitude is endless for this. you know, and I will occasionally bug you for a future visit. But again, the door is wide open. Wide
yeah.
open. You idiot kids. And you said X-Files, and I'm sitting here thinking Graham does a great show on Tuesday nights where we talk about everything from UFOs and stuff like that. And if you want to talk X-Files stuff, let's get Tuesday night to talk about.
Yeah, I showed off what I'm doing. I'm going for my boxes on a Tuesday night, and the first box was Firestorm, and I was like, "Oh, it's a Mandrake." I didn't remember Mandrake doing this.
Yeah, working on especially the Wildstorm X-Files story that I did with Steve. You know, we did the crossover 30 Days a Night X-Files stuff. That was a lot of fun to draw.
Right, cool. I didn't know that. There's so much stuff you can't keep up with it. I can't obviously buy everything. I actually got a load of Grimjack. I didn't even realise you'd done them, and I was trying to sell them. I sold most of them now. I didn't know you actually worked on it, but never mind. All right. Anyone got any last questions? Anything you want to tell us before we'll let you go to?
I'd just like to see that. I'd just like to see the artwork that you showed us for Wisdom, because it looked fantastic. Can we just have another look at that original artwork?
See that? Sure. I'll bring that back up.
That is fantastic.
Bravo! Standing golf clap. Gee, man.
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I signed up for the Kickstarter, so I'll be getting.
This was great. You know, getting to work on a creator-owned thing with JM was fantastic. It's I've only done DC stuff with JM before. It's our first time doing something that we're both really invested in. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was just great.
Yeah, and I told him, and I'm going to tell you, when that stuff actually hits the shelves, like next April or whatever, I'm obviously going to bug you both again and say, hey, if you want to promote it more, please come on our little show.
Yeah, we need a JM and a Tom Mandrake.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
That sounds good to me.
You can hang out and reminisce.
Yeah, I mean, I annoyed them like crazy last week because JM was my #1 get, and I got to him, and then
but seriously, we could get
so
if we get Tom and JM on just to chat to each other, we can just sit here quietly and listen to them chatting.
Seriously, if you want to have a laugh, just sit and look at us at the side with our jaws agape, going, knock yourselves out, fellas. We just flies on the wall. That would be so awesome. So, but yeah, great. I'm going to do the American thing again. Dude, seriously, greatly appreciate you. Appreciate you coming on. Appreciate all your stuff through the years. Thank you again for showing off that Wisdom piece, because damn. Damn, would I love to have that hanging on my wall. Wow.
Just send us your links so I can add them to the description, because all I've got is that old blinking website, which is not really yours by the looks of it.
Yeah, that, like I say, that was an ancient one, but
that was on the wiki page. Wiki leads to that. Like the Wikipedia page leads to that page. Right. Yeah.
I guess I need to sign up for Wiki and then change that, huh?
Yeah, maybe.
How shall I send the links to you?
You can send them to Carl. You can post
just
them
send them to me in the messages, and I'll relay it.
I'll come and follow you on Instagram.
If you want to contact, we'll get you followed on Instagram.
I'll follow myself.
You got real parts from around the world who cannot wait to hype anything you put your hands on, anything your family puts their hands on. We're going to be talking about it and bragging about this because, whatever to the world, we got to hang out with Tom Mandrake. So we get cool points here. So we will be happy to hype any. Well, I'm a hype man, but everyone knows that now. So, but yeah. Can't wait. Can't wait to just spread the word, spread the love, spread the accolades. Because again, you guys never hear it enough. There's no way you hear it enough. You may see 100 fans or 1,000 fans, but you cannot hear enough how impactful your words, your stories, your art, your history. It's genuinely impactful. to the random schmo right down the road all the way around the world every day. So
this is why I always tell my students that no matter what you think about any comic book that you ever produce, if somebody comes up, you never, to you at a convention, you never say, I didn't do a good job on that one. Because every comic book that you ever make is somebody's favorite comic book.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
James did that last week, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think James said the same thing.
You did, yeah, definitely. Great minds think alike.
You've got to, whether or not you like it, you've got to respect the work. And somebody grabbed it on a bad day, and it got them through it. And I understand that because the same things happened to me. You know, there are some truly terrible comic books and movies that got me through a bad day.
Well, and if you're ever having a bad day in the future, reach out to us. We will blow, as they all say,
we'll make it worse.
People's ass. But I'll blow the helium up your ass and lift you up a little bit if you're having a bad day. Because if you need reminded, man, there are thousands of us out there that will remind you that you're dude. You're awesome.
Hopefully, stream got a few people through a bad day as well. If anyone watching this having a bad day, thanks for watching. Hopefully, it makes you feel better.
Well, this has been a good day, and I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks a lot. It's been a great day. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Great.
Cheerio.
Bye.
Bye.
Well,
man.
Was that cool or what, Grant?
I enjoyed that. That was good.
You liked that one, didn't you, Gray?
Oh yeah, but I'm glad I'm like a little hot. I'm having a hot flush, I think. That was cool. Just like I also like talking about the the art and all that kind of stuff, and rather than just characters and that. I think I actually learned some stuff there about inking and stuff. It's like, and you can tell he's a teacher because he was able to describe it very well, and sort of, I thought that was awesome. That was great stuff. Be great to get him back again, but those cars that scared him off with all these. It's like, oh, blimey.
Carl, a question is.
Yeah.
I'm not asking questions.
But that's the whole point, though. It's an interview.
I gotta pee. You guys talk about me. I gotta pee.
That's a great guess.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I've got a smile on now. I'm not even.
And then when he was nice to somebody, Gray was nice to somebody. That's.
Hey, I'm nice to nice people. I'm nice to cool people, not you plebs. Only Tom Mandrake. He's the only one I'm nice to. Oh man, I really enjoyed that. It was good. Great stuff. I feel like a fanboy. I don't normally feel like a fanboy. I'm normally terrible at talking to people like music people I like. I'm not really one for approaching.
Tonight, mate.
I'm not really one for approaching people and speaking to them and asking them questions and blowing smoke up their ass or anything like that. Or
No, I think you got the balance right.
Yeah. 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 Oh dear, that was good. I enjoyed that. I wonder who's next. I worry that we only have 7 people watching, but what can you do? We tell people to come and watch us, and hopefully people will watch it on the rewind as well. So it's not too bad. As long as we're having fun, that's the main thing.
Well, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And what a talented family, like wife, kids, all of them can do art and stories and that. It's like, wow. Yeah, it's like generational, isn't it? It's like, and that whole thing that Kyle was saying about how the connecting line from Joe Kubert to who he knew when he first got into, like, what's it, shades of separation or whatever it's called,
2 degrees of separation.
Yeah. No, cheers, Roscoe. Hey, I treat rubbish how it's meant to be treated, mate. You other slingers on my cover slinger show showing you inferior books and getting marks that don't deserve, that you get treated how you deserve, mate. That's what it is.
Make me bigger. I'm going to show this off for Roscoe again. Hey, Roscoe, you think Death Crazed Teenage Superheroes looks cool?
Hold on a second. There you go.
About a 1986 independent book called Death Crazed Teenage Superheroes.
Gray, are you able to send me the the file for this? Because I can edit it and just get the interview bit out.
Yeah, if you've got the time, I could.
Yeah,
I was thinking of doing that for JM, like cutting up the initial bits, maybe doing
if I've got the
snippets.
time. If you send this to me, I'll edit it and reissue it.
Okay, cool.
With just the interview stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Probably Kyle bits cut out.
Yeah, cut out my mouthy bits. But hey, Roscoe, I hope
you do go on, Kyle, man. Honestly,
yeah.
when you're going on, I was thinking, question, please. We want to.
But I wasn't going there. I even told him.
Listen, if you don't
hear, we don't want to hear you talking, Kyle. We want to hear him talking.
Yeah, that part wasn't about questions. That part was about platitudes.
Yeah, we got the
and curiosities.
Yeah,
you don't want to open up a can of worms that goes back 20 years.
We wanted to hear what questions you've got for him because
the questions I had for him would have kept him on for 3 hours.
Well, it was gone on for as long as you wanted to go on. That's all. But
Roscoe, I hope you think he said this is rad. this was the thing I'm going to add to your AOK, Roscoe. So you're going to get this independent Death Crate's Teenage Superheroes. So
cool.
I gave it away at the beginning. So, but this is going in your AOK when I dip it out. So, but yeah. Like I said, I had my ideas. When Gaiman comes on, I might be a little tighter with that, but
it's a weird system.
He's British. Don't do all that.
Yeah. That's the whole thing. We're all supposed to be asking questions of the people who we get on. And then you just come I'm not going to ask you a question, but I will talk for 5 minutes without actually asking a question. It's like
I don't want to pepper them with questions because it's not just a Q&A.
You don't have to pepper him, just ask a question.
But it's not just a Q&A, it's a free flow.
Yeah, no, he did. I was actually quite impressed. Kyle did ask a couple of questions.
And there was a lot of good preamble. And I thought, oh, good, this sounds like it's going to lead up to a good question. And nothing happened.
It's a conversation. I'd rather have a conversation than Q&A.
Right. Fair enough.
Because they don't want Q&A.
Maybe you need to pause every now and again so the other person can say something.
But if you leave him to talk for an hour and a half, he's going to get bored.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a conversation with him.
Yeah. Oh, anyway.
If we were doing 15 minutes and it's just, all right, I have 10 questions. Let's get them out of the way.
I was surprised he stayed for a long time, didn't he? He stayed for ages. He went for a good hour and a half.
Again.
Good hour and a half easily. And
really cool answers. If you can send me the file stuff.
Actually, I could try, but thinking about it, it's going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. You're going to need something like WeTransfer.
I do use WeTransfer, but I don't know if it's one that will be big enough to send on a free transfer. However, you got to sign up
it
for
should be okay. It's going to be huge though. Yeah, so WeTransfer do free transfers.
Yeah, I do use it quite a bit. I use it for sending my podcast out to people. Yeah. But that's music file. That's sound files rather than a video file. A video file might be a lot bigger,
So how much longer are we staying on tonight?
I don't know. Do you guys got anything you want to show?
No, I'm finished.
You had enough? I'm happy to bugger off as well. I'm happy to bugger off.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to keep going. I'm up to keep going. I'm in a lot of pain, but
I
was going to give you a little TMI there, but I had to run off and pee. That was like watching a really good movie.
You didn't want to go.
Run up.
When
you got bladder and prostate cancer.
Yeah. You got to go when you got to go.
3-hour movie, and then
when we get Neil Gaiman on, you have to wear a nappy that week, mate, so you haven't got to rush off because you're asking all the questions.
Yeah.
Or diaper, as you call them.
I don't know. I told you that everything's in the works right now. We don't. We do have a commitment from both JM and Tom to come back. Hillary said he'll come back.
Yeah.
I've got plenty of people that said they'd come back around, and
in the meantime, we can just show off our own comic books, and maybe find out.
John Bishop, if you're still on here, and I'm telling you, we need to get you on here shooting the breeze with us, Bishop.
Yeah, well, anyone's welcome to come on here. They seem to come onto a Tuesday night hangout. We don't really seem to get many people come on here. We need to get Alan back again so he can actually show a few more books. We were a bit long on character studies in that last time he was on.
I can still do that. I don't have the best pictures, but Nan and a boo-boo, I've been to Marvel Comics offices.
Well done.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
We appreciate you, even if Gray doesn't.
I appreciate him enough. I let him on my show, didn't I? You can show your comic books though. You can come and show some of your interesting comic books and share some of your knowledge.
Bishop, of course I want to hear your rubbish. We've had these talks online. We've had messenger calls.
I'm going, guys.
I'll see you later, mate.
All right, see you later, Mark. But yeah, Bishop, if you want to pop in here and want to hear your rubbish, hey, it's my mom.
Yeah, she was here earlier. She said it was
my man.
Good chat.
I didn't even see that earlier, but yeah, my mom was gonna come.
Indiana has a course in comic books. Bet that class would love this show. You know about that? Indiana's got a course in comic books.
IU, Indiana University has. Yeah, a lot of them would love this show, but they get them. They get it. They get creators on there. They got a world-class music department that gets all the big names in there too. But but they get them. They don't need me to hype anything there. So, but yeah, that was just me trying to shoot the cock and bull with people and trying not to suck out the whole thing. But I figured if I just let a point of conversation and then just let him go for 10 minutes and then come back around and let him go for 10 minutes. Just go where it goes.
Yeah, you got to leave it open-ended then. You got to leave like an open-ended sort of... I think you did at one point when you talked about the history and the connection of the how it goes. They said the points of separation you was talking about.
Yeah,
that was cool.
It's just...
The trouble is a lot of the people he was talking about, I don't know, well, there's a couple of them I know, Dick Giordano, of course, Joe Kubert.
Oh, my
there's
God.
a few names.
The names he dropped right there, because everybody seeks me out for comic history and things like that.
Yeah.
The names he dropped were ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous.
I wanted to ask him more about cons and how in con interactions, how they've gone. But yeah, I think I was kind of running out of extra questions towards the end there, but it was cool. But like you said, that room, looking behind him, you wish you had a 360 camera, didn't you? Just to pan around a bit.
Pick it up, pan around that room, hang out for a little bit. And I wasn't kidding. I mean, I literally would take the scraps off his floor.
Yeah, Sleepy, you got to come on sometime and hang out with us and show some comic books and share some of your comic knowledge. Yeah. This is when we don't have guests on, this is like an open forum. Like anyone I reckon 6 people can hang out like comfortably, just chat in the breeze.
Damien, if you haven't figured out yet, I talk to anybody. I literally am in touch with Neil Gaiman's people. I am going to get in touch with Neil Gaiman directly. That's already been confirmed. Whether or not he says yes or no to coming on here is up in the air, but I am getting in touch with him. He's on a
very busy schedule
right now. So, but if we can get an hour out of him, that'd be great. If we can get...
I'm just shocked and amazed we've got J.M. DeMatteis and Tom Mandrake on. When you said,
that took minimal effort.
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? Surprising.
Effort. Hillary was a, hey, how you doing? We're doing this show. Come on. And then with JM is like, hey, we've had to run a dialogue for 10 years, buddy. How about...
Hey, Darren, you missed it, mate. You missed Tom Mandrake. You have to go back and watch it. If you want to see me grinning from ear to ear, you have to go back and watch it because I enjoyed that. My cheeks are hurting, actually. My cheeks are warm from smiling too much, I think. I need to get out of that smiling habit. It's not going to catch on for me, I don't think. It's kind of like...
Show off that art again. That is so cool. That doodle he did that.
Oh, yeah, that's this is when I bought Creeps. He said I bought these Creeps from his website, and they all came signed. I've shown them before on my channel, and this I say this doodle, but it took him like 5 minutes to do because he's so they must have done it so many times. But he just captures the essence of Spectre is captured still there, isn't it? And like the gloominess of him and the dark shadow around from the hood around his face just looks awesome. The old school original Golden Age Spectre doesn't look at all creepy, but when Mandrake, and also Aparo, Aparo didn't necessarily look creepy, but he did do some horrific kind of things with the way he acted. But with the actual Spectre run, with the darkness and the shadows and the ethereal quality of the ghostly things lurking in the shadows, Tom. I was going to ask him more about this horror as well. I think, only because I like him. I like his art a lot, and I've always enjoyed it. I think he's up there with bloody I forget what's his bloody name. Yeah, Wrightson. I can't understand why he's not more Warlord.
You heard it. We got a commitment out of him. He's going to be more than happy to come back on when he actually gets to tell the tale about the new stuff.
Yeah, they all have been very cool, actually. Very cool.
Scratching the surface. Hell, this is only like the 5th or 6th show, and that's the 3rd.
Well, I can't believe actually how many shows we've done so far. This is number 6. This is show number 6. Yeah. When I was writing up the thing for it, I went, show number 6? We can't be on number 6 already. But
and the kick is, if I had it my way, we'd have a pro on every show, but...
Yeah, I think I'd get tired of a pro every show.
Semi-pros, and of course, one show we did have a pro on. We did have somebody showing Amazing Fantasy 15, signed by Stan Lee, a Batman.
We've had 6 shows, and 3 of them have had people, professionals on, haven't they? That's really cool, blimey.
And if I had it my way, and Romeo would have. But he's got his reasons, so he'd do a print one. But he was flattered that I asked.
If he even wanted to come on just to show some stuff, like show some
Liam Sharp Liam Sharp is coming on. That's anybody knows me knows I know Liam Sharp. He is coming on, but he's up to his eyeballs right now with a whole bunch of stuff, not just comics. Yeah. When it slows down, and probably at the beginning of the year, Liam's going to come on and shoot the cock and bull with us, and he's a British expat, and Liam will come on and shoot the shit with us. Hillary will come back and shoot the shit with us. They can plug us into so many people. They can literally plug us into just so many people. I mean, it's not even funny. And so a lot of
we'll see what happens. See what happens. Let's hope we get more interested people to chat to in the future. Including people from the comic community. So Sleepy Reed, if you want to come on, Darren, if you want to come on at some point, show some comic books.
Yeah.
Tell us about the kookaburra and other Australian wildlife, and feel free.
I'm serious, Bishop. Anytime you want to come on, especially when we don't have it cluttered up with guests, anytime you feel like coming on.
Last Cruises, if you want to come on, you can come and hang out sometime if you want to, mate.
Yeah.
I'm on IG. Anyone wants to hang out, get in touch with me on IG or Facebook, and I'll send you a link next week. Yeah. But nice to get your other mate on, the guy, the Montreal
Johnny. He'll come back on with a bunch.
He wants to come on again, show some more of his books, give him a bit more notice, or then he
just scratched the surface with those. Bill Field, who wrote the book with Neil Adams and hosted a bunch of San Diego Comic-Con panels, he's more than happy to come on. It's just tying down people's schedules. So, and once it gets to be more regular, and they'd be more than happy to. So.
What have you been reading this week? Anything interesting?
No.
Yeah, nothing at all.
I told you I barely got a chance to look at anything.
You're still unpacking stuff for your big mail calls.
I haven't even read through half of those. And again, my eyes are all screwed up still from all the radiation I got. Yeah. So I used to be able to sit and read for hours on end. I mean, a day off, I could read 10 hours of that day off. I could read books or comics. Now it's 10 minutes, take a break, do this, do that, get a few things done. But I'm turning about 15 to 20 hours a week on lives now. So, and then I got a huge package coming in Monday that I'm going to be not talking about Thomas, talking about trade. But I've got a huge trade coming in from England Monday, so I'm going to do a live unboxing of that. Yeah, but I'm not even going to scratch the surface on that. Basically, that's going to be me showing up.
You can show some more off on Tuesday if you want to on the
I'll be showing stuff off from that trade for a while. I'll be blowing people's minds knowing what I let go of. I mean, I let go of 1933 Mickey Mouse, Batman 15. I let go of some stuff.
Yeah.
But whatever. I owned it. It served its purpose with me. It moved on. But I've got a package coming from JMD Mateus that could be here any day. And who knows what all is going to be in that. It could just be his CD with a quick signature, and that's it. But I know the guy. I know there's probably going to be comic books in there too. So
you never know. That'd be nice.
I'm going to be opening that up with a shit-eating grin on my face going, holy crap, and I got to move all these mailers off to the side because I can't send them back out because there's I can't reuse these Geminis because they got Liam's home address, Hillary's home address. Now I'm gonna have Liam's home address.
Just scribble them out. I'll cover them over. It's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have those, and then I had to set aside bishops the other day because here I'm gonna hype Bishop a little bit.
Did he send you some stuff recently? Did he?
This is my customs declaration from the last packet I got from John, and obviously I'm saving that because there's a little bit of original art there. And then again, while I'm hyping Mr. Bishop and trying to get him on the show, it used to be right next to me, but I moved it. Hold on.
You've lost it.
I had put this stuff back on the walls. I had to, since the kids moved out, I was able to rearrange stuff in my library again. But yeah, there's my John Bishop original art, some of my John original art.
That's cool. So
they get to talk to him about art and all kind of things. But how cool is that? There's an original John Bishop. See, Bish, I'm hyping you on the channel.
Does he do any professional artwork, or is he just like a hobby?
He's done some bits and pieces, He's done some stuff, but I'm going to let him talk all that. I'm just going to brag about the fact I got original Bishop artwork.
Yeah, if he decides to come on.
I got a Wolverine. He's like, who wants to see me on? Come on. I'm sitting here bragging about you, Bish. Come on. Come on the show. So that's my job, to hype these people and go, yeah, I know these people. That's how cool I am. I'm a phone call away from a lot of these people, but
no, he's still here. I thought you'd bag it off. He's still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's still
That's
here.
what I'm saying, Bish. I'll send you the link on Messenger, and you come on in here. Dude, I don't like your doodles. I love your doodles. You're hanging there with an original Romeo Tangal of me. Here's the guy that did the Teen Titans, and you're right there in the frame with him, and you're hanging proudly on the wall of my library. Like I said, I'm not going to repurpose this package because it's got an original Bishop on it. So, and I got a stack of
that wasn't Bishop, that was Wolverine. Bishop's
hey, guess what I just got?
Bishop's the black guy with the power blasts.
Yeah, guess what message that ding was? That was a laundry list of links from Tom Mandrake I just got, so I'm gonna
forward them to me so I can quickly update the links here. But yeah, it was awesome.
Once we wrap up here, I'm gonna spam you with more stuff from him. Because again, I'm a hype man. I'm not kidding. I literally wasn't blowing smoke up his ass. I don't have enough Tom Mandrake comics, and I don't have my DCs readily accessible, but I didn't really need to show up many comics because you guys had them.
No, you didn't need to show any comics.
I wasn't blowing smoke. I was genuinely impressed. It's like your art is impressive. I do appreciate that he shares it. I appreciate that straight line through. I mean, that name drop he did, I'm telling you, dude, that name drop he did, those were huge flipping names. Huge names, and not enough people know about them, but they're the guys who taught the guys. People talk about the original art I got from Sheldon Mayer, and then they're like, well, it's not Joe Kubert. And I'm like, Sheldon Mayer is who taught Joe Kubert. Sheldon Mayer is to Joe Kubert what Mandrake just said Kubert was to him.
Mm.
And there's that line that just goes straight through them.
I'd like to delve into how people acquire their styles. How does that come about that people have
basically born with it? You're basically born with it.
Yeah. You look at Joe Kubert. He had a unique style. You can tell there's kind of quite scratchy with Joe Kubert. I think
Russ Manning. It's just straight line from Russ Manning to Joe Kubert.
He was great at war books, but occasionally he did a superhero book, and the character made him look really old. Somehow his art style made the Flash look like he was ancient almost. I don't know.
Look back at Russ Manning's stuff. The Tarzans, the Flash Gordons, but the Russ Manning Tarzan. You look at Russ Manning Tarzan and Kubert Tarzan, and they're almost identical because Kubert used to trace him. And he used to say that. I used to trace, just like any of the other ones did, they used to trace, like they're the artists that influenced them, that they figured this stuff out by tracing it. I used to trace the covers of comic books, so I'd get used to certain action movements or facial structures and things like that.
Yeah.
But you have your built-in style, and to compare it like to music, if you play an instrument, if you sit down at keyboards, you've got to feel, your fingers are going to go a certain way. If you play a guitar, your fingers are going to go a certain way. And then you can start picking up people's styles and things like that, where, well, I can play this chord on the guitar because that's a natural finger hold for me, but I had to teach myself that. Because that's hard. The Eddie Van Halen stuff, I had to actually teach my fingers to do this, and so I started with an open and then had to work on the others. And it's the same way with art. You have this general thing where you draw like flowy, like Ditko, or tighter, like Wrightson.
After I learned how to tie my shoelaces, I didn't learn anything else after that, unfortunately. I wasn't able to do anything else after learning to tie my shoelaces. That was it. I peaked. I peaked at that moment when I first learned to tie my shoelaces.
You're a rock star singer, so.
Then after that, no. I used to make noises in my throat. I didn't sing, and it was terrible. My throat was terrible, and I wasn't very good at it. But never mind. So exactly. I enjoyed it. I had fun at the time. Right, I'm going to call it a night now because it's 3 hours. My throat is drying out again because I've had a sore throat and a cough. And the second night in a row that I've talked my bloody ass off. So cheers for hanging out with us again, Kyle. Thank you very much for getting Tom Mandrake on. When you asked me who would you like to get on, I was like, this is the only name I could think of really, because like Tom Mandrake, I'm always like skewing his virtues because I always like his art every time I saw it. So when he said, "Oh, you were," and then he said, "Come back," and said, "Oh, he's coming up in 2 weeks' time." I was like, "Okay,
yeah. There you go."
Wow, good job. Yeah,
I don't pussyfoot around. So.
Yeah, well, you got connections, mate. You got connections. Right, cheers, dude. I'll see you next week. See you Tuesday. I don't see you online at some other point.
No, you don't need me Saturday again, right?
No, it's taken.
Well, you're gonna need me one of these Saturdays because
we'll see. I've got you Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm not sure I can handle you 3 days a week. Tuesdays and Wednesdays is enough. Tuesdays and Wednesdays is like. Right.
Yeah.
See you later, mate.
I love you, brother.
Yeah, cool, man. Thanks for everything. See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye, chat. Thanks, chat, for hanging out. Cheers.